We're back. It is now almost properly the full regular season. There's actually technically LEC still to go. That's going to start this weekend. But every other league is up and running. And actually, you know what, Yamato? Before we get into the specifics of the games, that is actually the first topic I wanted to bring up. I'll give you a very quick analogy from Counter-Strike. You'll get what I mean by this point. Right, one of the problems that you will always face in esports, you'll have experienced it too, mate, is if you ever complain about the format, a fan, because they don't talk about abstract things like the format, they just go, ooh, bit of a detective case here, let me get on the trail. They put their fucking detective hat on, like fucking Sherlock Holmes, that like Daystalker. They get the pipe out and the bloodhound and they go, let's get to the bottom of this. And what they do is they just go, you don't like the format because of the most recent result. And because the team that you like lost, you are just crying and salty about the result. And what they do is they ignore every point you made about the format. So the point I'll make very briefly is this. This happened in the recent Counter-Strike Major. What happened was Vitality was on this win streak of matches. Now, technically, all the other matches they played were best of 3 or best of 5 series because we don't actually have best of 1 in Counter-Strike anymore, except at the majors. But because we just don't have series anywhere, people actually were just counting matches. So when they lost their first match at the major, which was a best of 1, that ruined the streak. Now, it didn't, because you can just say the streak is series wins instead of matches, right? Which is what we did anyway, and what we used to do. But anyway, when this match happened, right, if you dared go, well, this is why you don't want BO1s, because a team that basically could never lose a best of 3 just immediately loses the first BO1 they play, right? A fan would just go, you just shut up, you're just salty that they lost or whatever. But then what was brilliant, Yamato, is, as if to show that I had a point, the universe then had the second and third best teams in the world also lose their BO1, who also never lose even BO3s, right? So if anything, it was like, you can see where I'm going on this, by the way. It was like the universe was like, nah, actually Thorin has a point. But guess what? BO1's way more variance and you can upset can win. I feel like, Yamato, without going into the specifics yet, if it had only been the case, Yamato, that GenG came back to Korea and then lost to T1, if I dared say something like, well, they just played 2 international tournaments back-to-back on 2 different continents. Then they had to fly back. And in fact, as you might have seen, I think it was GenG management themselves even said that on the first day they came, they just went straight to the studio that day and played a game and had to do a bunch of other shit. Like, they didn't even get time to literally sleep or practice or prep the draft or none of the things you get to, right? If I said that, every T1 fan, typical, so all the results against them. But here's what's brilliant, guys. Anyone's legend, salute. You have done exactly what I'm talking, because you did the same thing. Because here's the difference, guys. T1 is pretty good. There's a world where T1 anywhere could have beaten GenG. But anyone who's seen BLG, and they're a brand new player, knows they're a mess right now. So when they then beat anyone's legend, same thing happening, guys. Number 2 in the region beats number 1. This is the bigger topic I want to start with, right? We pointed out before, if you're not from a Counter-Strike mentality, if you're from League of Legends where you expect each finals and playoffs to be a few months apart, it is really jarring to have like, right, MSI's over, you got 2 days to get to Saudi Arabia and then right back into like playoffs. Like, fucking hell, that is a lot. But mate, it's bad enough playing, on the road and keeping it going. When these teams come home, fucking hell, can we at least have like a week off or something? This is nuts, because I feel like we're going to obviously get into these matches later, but I feel like this just has to be the case, mate. Like, it's not even, by the way, something of like, I'm just saying it's the only one saying. I imagine T1 and BLG felt it too. Like, it looked like everyone who went to those tournaments just burned to a crisp. Like, we're actually, if anything, building back up, because I think all those matches looked way worse, mate. It looks like everyone's wrecked from the travel, understandably.
Also, on top of that, we had a new patch, and there's going to be, like, it wasn't the biggest patch, but there's adjustments to make, and
Sure.
there's going to be a randomness to it. Just so everybody's in the loop, it's like GenG's schedule. They arrived the Tuesday, basically Wednesday, the day they played, at 3 a.m. They have to play the next day, and then on the Thursday, they had to travel to the city where obviously the T1 stand happened. So they are
Like
getting
completely, thing, yeah.
Yeah, they were getting completely deep fried. At least on the LPL side, Anyone's Legend and Bilibili got like a grace period where they had the first match, I believe, on Saturday. But even then, Anyone's Legend had to play back-to-back matches on the day. LPL schedule has been very brutal because logistically they want to save time. It's like, oh, they send, let's say, 8 teams to Shanghai. They all play each other at the same time. Let's get it all out of the way. That's why we get like these matches where like, oh, IG played 3 days in a row. All right. Well, I guess we get to see that then. But with that all in mind, it's like the Anyone's Legend, even last split, they had series where they just got 2-0'd by JDG randomly after they fired their coach or something. Like, there were series that they dropped. GenG, on the other hand, it's like it was a close series, competitive series. I think in the end, T1 is still a good team. Like, I agree with your sentiment too. Like there's a chance that T1 can beat GenG. Like they went to 5 games a couple of times, and T1's not a bad team at all. I do think that the pressure of the timing and everything makes it so much harder to actually digest the like experience that you get from an international. I think the easiest point of comparison is KC, after going to the finals of First Stand, had to play the LEC the next week, and they had this struggle where they were kind of being chased by this recovery to the point where they were very lucky that they had a 1-week break between, of course, the Koi matches, because they didn't fly out to, of course, Spain to play. So they had time to rest, and then they had their own homestand. But this time around with LEC, if I just look at G2 and Koi, they are super happy that they get 1 week off, LEC is starting later, and they get to digest all of that experience they've gone through, while the other teams kind of just sat home and rotted. I think it's a very, very underrated topic in terms of how you manage stressful logistics in League of Legends. I think T1 are probably like the best masters of that ever, because I've told so many stories about how you go to the World Championship, you maybe get like 1 scrim day in a week because you have to travel, someone has to cancel, someone randomly has COVID, someone's sick, then they have media day, you have media day. Like you need to really, really manage with whatever gets thrown at you. So T1 are the masters of that. And I imagine Billy to some degree, they are experienced with going through the circuit and doing the bullshit. True. So I think it really came in clutch here.
Sure. Because that, by the way, and I will say, I extend that to both sets of parties. I imagine it was just more of a messy game because it wasn't proper prep. Whereas normally these teams had like full prep for each other. Also, you have to add in as well, the Asian teams, when they go to the international tournaments, I'll bet they grind themselves to the bone, mate, with the fucking VOD reviews and the prep sessions and talking to their remote analysts and looking for some edge. So if you play 2 back-to-back international tournaments and then come home, the level's going to be lower. It makes sense. And the joke is, people have forgotten this in the West, but this used to be the famous thing we all said after MSI. It was the MSI hangover going into summer. It didn't matter how good you were. You could be like the most dominant team ever. You would always have like those first 2 weeks. You'd just have like a random loss to some nobody team. And forget even like a rival. You just have to have a bad team. But what's good is, as well as some big marquee matches, which you've already had, we've also got some actual surrounding news. Actually, let's just go part by part. So I'll tell you where we should start, right, Yamato, is... Since it's been an ongoing saga on this show, like you could essentially already make a super cut of all the episodes where we talked about this T1, Zeus, the Play Agency, or what a cancer name that is, by the way, the most generic name of the Play, like the agency that represented Zeus, basically. And then the whole drama between them, T1, at one point, like this is why it's like wrestling. At one point it was fucking Joe Marsh, then it was some like Korean person. Now it's just like a third person I've never seen before, whose job, I guess, is just to be the fall guy about and be like, we apologize to the regime of GenG, and like, you know, like the fucking like Animal Life and the Play Agency. Because basically, guys, that in theory, right, I'm scared to say this, but in theory, this might be the last we need to hear about this topic, Yamato, in Czech's notes. The fucking end of July, for fuck's sake. This shit was happening back like January or something, bro. Like, this story is a saga that just never ends, mate. This is like fucking One Piece saying, just end it already. Please, end it. Like, no one could go back to the beginning and start over. It's too long. It's too fucking long. So anyway, thankfully, I believe this might be the end, Yamato, because basically what happened is T1 did a big teaser where they said, basically, like, tomorrow we're going to be doing like an apology to Zeus. And if you ever saw the wording being used, this wasn't even, mate. Like, look, the one area they maybe tried to like claw a tiny bit of dignity back is they didn't just straight up say, and I have a reason why I think this is in a second. They didn't just straight up say, sorry, we lied, and just spitefully and maliciously tried to fuck with you. I imagine for legal reasons. You don't say that, Yamato. Instead, they were just sort of like, we're really sorry that some misinformation, that dreaded fucking Orwellian term, some misinformation got spread around. And if you notice, I thought the most telling part was they didn't just sort of say like, hey, you know, we're sorry to our fans, or, you know, so like, they actually went out of their way to message that they were really sorry to Zeus and his family. I noticed they kept sort of stressing that detail. In fact, it wasn't even, it seemed that much about the agency. It was more like about him. I don't know about you, Yamato, but my initial immediate cynical take on this is like, one, I don't really feel like there's actually any new information there. I feel like everyone already took that conclusion anyway. So I have to say, I'm going to be cynical. This just feels to me like potentially Zeus's family. Well, like, you know what? We're sick of this. Like, you've done this like 5 times. Like, you know what? Fuck you. We're going to sue you. Like, you've literally damaged his reputation. Also, by the way, look, I get that T1, this is just the nature of that massive fan base. Well, people say, I mean, you could probably have guessed this, that suppose Zeus and his family have had like loads of death threats and people tell them, hey, get here, whatever. Which, look, seems about right. I mean, the joke is people in the West get death threats for saying the team will lose a match. So I could believe some nutter Korean fan went too far and sent a horrible message or whatever. And obviously, famously, if you remember, in this particular case, they were like doxing him or whatever the fuck, weren't they? I think they found like some shit to do with like his family or some insane shit like that, or where someone worked or something. So basically, T1's done an apology where they don't like I said, they don't say they lied, but they say almost everything but that. And that pretty much, this just looks to me like surrender. It's like, right, let's just end this topic. Look, it's too late now. Also, by the way, it's convenient because you have also done it when, if anything, this is probably the best period ever with Thorin. Like, actually, it's sort of working out now, even. Because I do think, by the way, if you look over the year, the timing of when they would always release new information from the T1 side always looked like they were just trying to distract people. It's like, if you probably know this, you know, the classic old school Dave Chappelle skit where he's pretending to be like Obama or something, you know, and he's like in trouble. He's like at a meeting. He's like, then he quickly like knocks that like glass of that big thing of water all over to like escape. You know what I'm on about? He's like, yeah. That's like what T1 was doing every time they lost in fucking LCK. Like, they just go, yes, we need to address it. Oh shit, what have we done with that Zeus thing? Like, and then run out the room and everyone's like, yeah, remember the Zeus drama, like a K drama or something. So anyway, let's rewind. What do you think about this apology, mate? And is this it? Dare we say, is this the end of the story? Can we put that story to bed? What do you think?
I'm with you 100%. My first reaction is, from a company standpoint, there would be no reason to release this unless you are actually under like judicial pressure. Like there is nothing else. Because from a PR side, it's terrible because it feeds into like a portion of the T1 fan base that is very, very angry at management.
Yeah.
This which is back to the point where SKT turned into T1 and, an American took over the company, so to speak. Yeah. You know, like there's diehard fans that are very, very angry at management, and it ties into the whole saga of the whole year. And obviously losing Zeus really, really put an even bigger emphasis on that. And then, with everything that was spun around, like Joe Marsh said that How Alive are liars with that lion tweet that he did, with the implication playing Twitter games.
And remember, it was initially T1 implied they'd be the ones suing the agency or whatever. They were like, we will seek legal matters. They were the ones threatening this shit initially, if you remember, yeah.
And on top of that, it was, I remember the whole AMA post where Joe Marsh was like saying that, these agents don't know what's best for the players, they're ruining their futures. And then they made the claim in the aftermath saying that these comments were just an observation on esports as a whole. Like, bro, we can't forget all of this shit that happened in between.
I love that. That's like, if you don't know, by the way back in the day, people always forget this detail that makes it way funnier. You know the famous story everyone knows that in the 90s, Bill Clinton got like impeached over the idea that he'd had sex with his aide or whatever, which is what Hillary Clinton, Monica Lewinsky's role was. She was sort of like almost like an intern or whatever, like secretary in his office. And obviously the premise goes like she was sucking his dick or whatever. There's actually an even funnier detail a lot of people forget, which is quite, I know this might seem weird because actually people have often portrayed Bill Clinton a bit like they do George Bush, like he was an idiot or whatever. He's actually quite a smart guy. People don't know, think he was like a Rhodes Scholar who went to like Oxford or something about. Like, he wasn't some moron. It's just he had like a southern accent or whatever, which people just associate with being like a hick or whatever the fuck. And basically, one of the things he did in court was like this. He started just having like a semantic debate about things like, well, really, it would depend what you mean by the word the. Like, he was actually doing shit like that, bro. It's like, fucking hell, this is how far we've retreated into, like, but what do words even mean, really? Like, that's what it felt like. I know what you mean, because, like, they did try that. And also, the funniest detail of all, like, it makes me laugh so hard seeing it now. If you go back and look at that AMA, Yamato, where it's translated from Joe Marsh, it says within the AMA, even though this is during, like, January, like, this will be our final remarks about, like, does it, like,
Ain't no way.
Bruh, what are you talking about? It never ends. It just never ends.
No, I think in the end, it's like, it seemed like there were certain obligations points that they needed to hit, almost like an ad read, you know, like, oh, you need to say this, this needs to be included, this needs to be included, this needs to be included, because it was so specific. It's like, as you mentioned, Zeus's family, also to the agency as well. They also mentioned that they basically lowballed Zeus. Like, I thought that was like a...
Dude, that's crazy, isn't it? Like, they admitted essentially, like, remember, their whole positioning until recently was this. It was the idea that, like, no, that was our opening bid and we thought you'd push back. They kept saying that angle as if that's normal. But no, they essentially apologized for almost like, I think they even said something like insulting him with the offer or something. Like, I could see how it could be taken as like a slight or something, which is kind of great. That's nuts to admit, mate. That's really nuts.
I think I don't know. In the aftermath now, they are very fortunate that the team is going well, because all that drama is like forgotten too. I still feel bad about the coaching staff, because I still think they deserve a lot more credit for piecing this together, but they just don't. They're still enemy number one for some reason, you know. Like, someone mentioned that Koma is just a trophy chaser. When I read that, I was like, what the hell? Like, what world are we living in, you know?
Well, he's won 4 worlds! By that logic, you're right, he is a trophy chaser. He fucking gets them though, like, give me a break. Come on. Come on. Why are people like this?
It had to be legal, you know. In the end, it's like Zeus moved on. I think... you know, it's sad. Sometimes it's sad that the attention span of any community, anything that is going on, it's just a moment that moves on so quickly.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like, this should have been greater, you know. This should have been bigger, but it was just like, oh, next day there's a T1 GenG match and everyone forgets, you know. So it's like it just moves on so fast, because this is massive, you know. For me, this was a massive moment. I'm with you. I think this must have been legal pressure. But in the end, you know, if someone says this is just PR, they try to do damage control, then, you know, with the PR they did rest of the year, maybe, you know, their PR person said that this is a good idea. I think it's a stupid idea, because in the end, you're exposing yourself and your methodology. It's like a lot of companies do bad things in the dark, but they keep them in the dark. Like, that's the part of the game. You just keep it hidden and you do your moves. It is what it is. Like, for example, when G2 did the whole poaching shit, it's like they never fucking said it out loud.
Oh no.
Like, imagine if like G2 just came out, it's like, sorry, we met at the pool. Our player Perks brought Caps over when he was on the contract. Like, obviously this is all fiction. This is not something that happened. I'm just making the point. Imagine if anybody else did this.
Oh, by the way, I also think the nuttiest thing is, like, as you say, it's not even this one. It's the one where they basically came out and said that thing like, oh, Joe Marsh, he was just talking about, he was like doing that thing like, all characters and names mentioned are fictional unless otherwise referenced, not related to anyone in real life. They were doing that. It's like, mate, you went out your way to address the whole thing. Like, I'm going to tell everyone what's really going on. They were like, oh, silly old... They made it like he was Joe Biden, not Joe Marsh. Like, silly old Joe. He'd just be saying stuff when it's evening time. Come on, Joe. Sundown time, mate. Off you go to bed. All right, Joe, let's get you to bed. Like that fucking grandma meme. Like, that's... Man, the idea you'd ever say that about your own CEO, and especially because they're not firing him, by the way. This is just like, they've just sort of said, oh, yeah, he's just an American idiot who was just talking out of his arse anyway. Business as usual, continuing on. Like, the whole thing's not, and I agree with you as well. Do you know what? Even though a hater will go, wow, Thorin, you've done it again for the millionth time. You've successfully taken you being wrong and then made it sound like you were right. Yeah, watch our work, motherfucker. This is masterful. I actually think the reason why I will also give extra credit to the T1 coaching staff is because, mate, if you actually look at what they did with the Smash Gumayushi thing and how they like gradually made Gumayushi like work back into the lineup, and then once he was in the lineup, there was pressure on him. If he hadn't performed, then he'd had a bunch of bad games. We all know how LCK works, but you get straight yanked out. In comes the sub. If he plays well, then he gets your spot for the next week or so. Right? If you look at the way that works, I don't think it's some coincidence by the time he got to MSI, Gumayushi looked like he was back in like peak form, mate. Like, if anything, you say like the coaching staff was right. Like, that approach worked, because like, you could certainly argue, I mean, they didn't end up obviously having the exact same line because Zeus didn't sign, but one of the dangers, by the way, of signing an entire squad of team that just won, I can tell you from other games, is they might rest on their laurels, because you'll just think, well, I'm not getting kicked. I just won a fucking world championship, mate. I'm good for years at this point. I can just fall in. Like, you could argue there's teams that have done that in history. So, like, obviously they can just say it's copium, but I think if you just look at the results, the coaching staff killed it, mate. They got back to Gumayushi, but in a way that makes sense. Like, he's not just being put in the spot because he won last year. He worked his way back into the roster.
It's also the timing with the incorporation of Thorin Because I think at this point, Thorin is way more incorporated than Zeus
ever
was
good, mate.
to the team. Because Zeus was like the lone wolf,
yep.
and Thorin's synergy together with the rest of the players is so evident and clear. And at the same time, I was also one of the guys. The majority of people said that they're misusing Thorin when they were like insisting on making him play the Gwens and the carries. Right. It looked very ugly, you know, for the longest time. But then it just managed to really, really, you know, click by the time playoffs came around. And then suddenly, you know, Thorin was just the MVP of playing carries. And that one simple Kisanta game against How Alive to make themselves go all the way to MSI. And I think that part, there's so many moving pieces about making a team make sense. And everyone was on the same page about, with Gumayushi, it worked really well with Zeus because of their characteristics. Zeus is the one that counters and of course, plays the team fights and carries through himself. And Thorin is not that guy. He has never been that guy. And them managing to get that out of Thorin this year, I think just credit to everybody. That's, you know, that was like one main point that we always hammered home, is that with how Joe Marsh presented the change as if he needed to step in and pushing Gumayushi, there would be no winners in the aftermath. The coaching staff was always made to look bad, and Gumayushi looks like someone that, you know, through nepotism got his spot again. Yes. Like either way it would have looked bad. But even on the fan front, Gumayushi was treated like he's a wounded bird. It's like, I want to view a player through the lens of, he is hit with this challenge, and now he has in him to go into solo queue, grind it out, and to prove himself that he's capable. Because in the end, being a pro player means that you have to prove yourself on the daily, unless you're like Faker, you know, then you can wait until the big matches at the playoffs and at Worlds or something, and you know he's going to pull it off. But there's very, very few players that have that courtesy, especially if the circumstances are that you have a substitute in Smash that can maybe get more out of the ADC position and at the same time push Gumayushi. I'd rather view him in the light as like, this is a player that, you know, he just took it on the chin and he just went into solo queue and started grinding, because that's exactly what he did. I don't like this idea of treating players like wounded birds. I'd rather view them through the lens of, this is a person that rises to the occasion.
It's a 23-year-old, two-time reigning world champion, for fuck's sake. I know what you mean. It's not like, put it this way, the real joke is this. That's actually how you guys should have treated someone like Poby when he did come in for Faker. You didn't, of course. You were all totally ruthless and cynical, and the second he was shit, you were like, get him out the game, he can't play League. Whereas, I know what you mean. When someone's a world champion, all of a sudden it's like, don't drop the baby. Oh, no, is he okay? Like, fucking hell, like me. He's a mega world champion who just signed another massive contract with a giant organization. Like, he'll be okay. In fact, if anything, like I say, I think this actually might have been the kick up the arse that got him back into form, because, mate, he's not just in form now, he's actually one of the best ADCs in the world. Like, you know what, let's start talking about the games. Bro, that Aphelios game was fucking smoking. This guy actually looks really good again. Think about it, you can argue at MSI was their best player at times. Looked fucking sick.
Gumayushi has really found himself. I think the laning strength of what the carrier Gumayushi duo always carried is fully back and forth, which I think is super, super good.
Think about those picks as well. That's like the perfect example, Yamato. They brought back the Aphelios Thresh, mate. I know what Meteos means in that tweet he made. I have missed Thresh so much, because when that kit is on, like carrier in that game, it's fucking amazing. Like, you can just dominate people. It's so sick. I get that it hasn't been a strong champion for a while, but again, it's like Lee said, if you could make that kit work, it's beautiful, isn't it?
No, definitely. Like, the carrier Thresh is legendary in many ways, and Aphelios has been getting buffs left and right, and now with Fearless, it opens up opportunities like this. I'm happy. Like, the meta has definitely gone in the direction of like Kaiser, Zeri being played a lot less, and that opens up, you know, the strength of Gumayushi, and that Aphelios spot was beautiful. It was similar to the spot where CFO locked it in with Dogo and Kaiwing, and Dogo and Kaiwing, they're also like classic players that came through, you know, that meta. I believe Kaiwing's like most played is Thresh. It's like when you have supports that have been around the block for a long time, and through Fearless, you get to see them kind of open up like a memory that has been lingering for a long time. It's like, we can just play Aphelios Thresh here. I don't know how much they practice it, because obviously in scrims it's very limited. I think that's something that is like in their system and in their bone. Because when I went to Worlds and I played against T1, we literally played against their Aphelios Thresh without Lucian Nami. So this is definitely something that they just have so many hours into, and it showed so evidently. Like, Gumayushi was really, really having a good one.
And speaking of, since as you said, I agree. I actually think here's what's sad: the Doran angle has really exposed who in the T1 fan base is just a Doran hater, or just hates whoever isn't, or FGK, etc., like part of that original grouping. Because I feel like every time they ever lose a game 3 or a game 5, and every time this guy ever does one int, people talk like all he's doing is inting. Bro, if anyone wants to talk shit on Doran, go watch game 3 of that series right there against GenG. That was a fucking baller Gragas game. This guy actually has. By the way, there's another thing as well. He isn't just some bitch who plays the tank, mate. You put him on the Renekton and he's had a fucking bunch of really good games. Like, he's actually, at this point, sadly, probably slept on a little bit, because I know what you mean. Like, it feels like half the T1 fan base, like, rides with him, but then even then, they're doing the baby bird thing, like, don't be made to Thorin. And then the other ones are just like, fuck Thorin, he's not Zeus or whatever. It's like, yeah, but here's the thing. Bear in mind, at this point, we have to just forget Zeus. He's not coming back. He's signed elsewhere. And that's just a period of history. That would be like G2 going on about having perks now. Like, that's years ago now, mate. You got to just look at the future. If you look at the future now, here's the good news if you're a T1 fan. I said it on the last episode. Bro, I won't say you don't need Zeus, but you can win without him. Like, it now looks like everything is possible again to win. LCK, fucking Worlds, you could have won these last tournaments. Here's the thing, I've always said this, I don't know about you. As a fan, I'm not the guy who has to be greedy when I'm a fan and be like, we want all the best players. I just want my team to have a chance. If they have a chance, that's what makes it fun. It's the little sweat of thinking it's possible, isn't it? And surely, by the way, a mixture of how Doran played this last month or so, all the internationals, and by the way, that fucking road to MSI, where he was fucking beating Hannibal Life directly, straight up, including Zeus, that mixed with the fact that, like, actually in general, it looks at this win right now over GenG implies again T1 can win everything, mate. Like, everyone went to. It turns out the first split made everyone lose their mind. Like, T1's story is fully back on, and if anything, they actually look like for once they're gonna have a good fucking summer. They've had all these whack ass summers before this, where they just make all this stock tank right before. Well, this actually could be a good summer, mate. They could actually be number 1 and number 2 this time.
I hope so, man. Like, I don't want it to be cursed. That the start is wonderful. That Jace game as well from Doran was really, really damn good, because that was a tough Jace game. Like, when I saw them lock it in against Twisted Fate, like Keen Santa as well, and the Skana, I thought he was going to die left and right to ganks. It started off like that. He got TF ported on once, but he recovered beautifully. I think Doran, in terms of how he moves around the map and finds timings to actually connect with them on dragons, I think there's so many subtle things that Doran does and has always kind of done on his teams. He was just never the guy that, if he had enough gold, that he would be a presence in the game. And I can safely say from watching Doran, even though I think he was always been like a top 3, top 4 top lane in the LCK, which is quite formidable, he just couldn't get you over the finish line in the quarterfinals at Worlds. This 1 month has been the best league Doran's ever played. It's just so complete in the way he plays. That Gragas game was wonderful. I don't think there is a clear flaw in terms of how he plays. I think he's very well-rounded, can play the carries, the Ambassador, the Gwen, the Jace. He can play the tanks as a mean Gragas as well. It is just like, you know, the clutches that he misses are clutches that are like once-in-a-lifetime type things. And there is very, very few players that are playing in that kind of a zone at all times. And I think that's something that can come with time as well. I think Doran has been a great addition, and I'm with you too. I think T1 has found a way to make it so exciting. As I mentioned it myself on some of my own content. I was like, if you're a T1 fan, you should be so damn happy. It's like, look where you were. That was the Smash Gumiyushi drama. You were dropping series to Bro, BFX, the recovery. That story in itself is really, really insane. And you took GenG to 5 games.
Yes. There's 2 points I wish people would travel back in time for a moment and remember the feeling of. One, remember the feeling after the winter split, the LCK Cup, basically. It's actually called the LCK Cup, right? After that, there was a very real world where, like, T1 was probably the 4th best team. They weren't, because they lost to fucking the eventual winners. But I mean, as in, like, you could easily have said GenG and Hannibal Life are better than them. And at the time, you could have argued D+ as well, mate. Like, it was right there. So already you were in 4th. Well, that's already a tough spot, because you get no MSI from that. Then I agree. If you go to the spring split and you just stop the week after they've lost to Fearex and Brion, man, no one would say in that week what I just said before on the last episode, like, you could win Worlds. Like, no, that's not even on the table. Like, at that point, you don't even think they could win fucking LCK, mate. Never mind Worlds. Like, that was completely outreach. So, no, if you're a T1 fan, there's no reason to complain at all. By the way, though, speaking of that match, because actually, by the way, the match itself wasn't that good. It was literally just 3 stomps. It was like GenG took over in game 1 after, like, an early, like, then just smashed him. And then the other 2 games, by the way, if you're T1 fan, there's also, I would never be fucking doom scrolled on. Like, This is amazing. Like, you just shit-stomped GenG 2 times in a row, bro. Like, these are really dominant games. It's fucking baller.
I think GenG's prep, it was clear there was a little bit like outdated. It was very, let's say, EWC/MSI build. It's clear that T1 like found like evolutions. T1 as well, I think, in terms of best of threes, I do think that they are more lethal in best of threes than in best of fives, because if you just look at the list of what T1 played throughout the games, like we basically went through the classics outside of maybe the game one where they played like Koki and the Nico, but they had the Zyra Khan game in a very good spot against the Lucian Braum, and then of course the Aphilos stretch that we also mentioned. It's like when this bot lane has good duos where they can pressure lane, it just opens up the rest of the game too. And I want to bring up the Gumayushi analogy that he adjusted. It's like he's no longer the egg, he's the water that of course boils the ramen, and I think it's very true. He's very apt with the analogies. For some reason this year the Korean players have turned into philosophers, like the Chinese players too.
Thing is, that's not even original. What, he's a T1 ADC that tried to join Team Liquid. Piglet did it already. Did it better. Whatever. Listen, Guma, I've got that fucking, off the top of the dome, that freestyle rebuttals, UK battle rap, stand up. Anyway, I actually had a thing, I'm going to paste it here to you, where someone did, ever since Chovy joined GenG in 2022, someone ran the numbers. Now, apparently, when I was looking, apparently they didn't count like the LCK Cup this year because, that doesn't get counted technically by LCK as like part of the circuit or whatever. It's some like exhibition thing. So technically that would have brought the numbers down, Yamato. But the one I would draw your attention to is this. Remember, this is in the era when they have had all those different players. They had fucking Lehens. They had, remember, they've gone through, they had Piers, Delight. They've had all these different players. But the point is, Chovy, this is his era in the team. The number I would draw your attention to, Yamato, because it doesn't seem right. Your brain reads it and goes, there's got to be a typo there, is the series win rate in LCK. Right, guys? They have played, let me just check, 146 series and they've lost 17. Right. Wait a minute. Let my brain just process that. That doesn't even make sense. Like, what? Mate, that is impossible. And someone even pointed out that if you want to compare it, it's even more dominant than like G2 Caps, which, they almost never lose, do they? Like, mate, this is insane. Like that. Look, I get that it's a team stat, so you can't say this like proves he's the GOAT, because obviously, by the way, if he'd been playing with the players who play currently in fucking DRX, he wouldn't have this win rate, would he? Like, he'd have a much more. But that, bear in mind, he's been on a top team, admittedly well stocked with really good players. That is a number. Just the loss amount is impossible, you might. I feel the idea, like, I've lost 17. Oh, that's a shame. How many have you won? Still 129. What the fuck are you talking about? What, Chovy must not even. That's why, bro. No wonder when he loses at Worlds, it like ruins his world. It's like, oh fuck, I forgot I can lose. Shit. What the fuck? That is not. That number is impossible, bro. That is so nuts. That number.
It just looks unbelievable.
Fucking hell.
It's like putting it in numbers looks even nastier. The 129 against 17 is absolutely crazy.
It's too good, isn't it?
And considering it's like the teams that he was up against too. It's like we had the KT Super Team, we had T1 all these years. It's like this is against T1. All of these series.
Agreed.
It's absolutely crazy. But he never won Worlds, so it doesn't matter, Thorin.
My bad. My bad. But that's why this is a perfect example, though, of what I always say, which is, in this case, we're talking more about the team of GenG and the cause they had, etc. This is why I do love that saying that they have, that like the one that apparently it's like one of those ones where, if you don't know, a lot of really old school quotes actually aren't by the original person. They're like, someone either took it and sexed it up over the years, or it's just like misremembered and misattributed in some old book. But like famously, they always attribute this one to Aristotle, the one that says, like excellence is a habit, not an act, or something like that. Like, this is why I think, put it this way, if you're a fan and you wonder why do people in the modern day say Chovy could be the GOAT without winning Worlds, because of shit like this, mate. Like, essentially, if you take away pressure, the guy just can't be beaten, it seems like. Which, yes, I understand pressure is part of the game, but the point is, when you remove pressure, what you actually see is someone's like ability level. Like, if anything, I'd go the other way and say the crazy thing about Faker in the last 3 to 4 years is he's not actually that good in the normal game with no pressure. He's just like a good player, but he has just been like, I wouldn't even say he's at the best, but he pulls out his biggest game when it's the big pressure ones, even though I'm not going to go full MSI. He doesn't do it every time, but he has done it in some very memorable moments like Worlds. So yeah, it just shows how interesting the contrast is again between these players.
I think also, I've said this so many times, but it's like, for me, the T1 journey becomes a lot more interesting when you frame it honestly. It's like for the longest time, they were the final chokers. They didn't win a single final. It took a very long time for them to get over the hump. The loss against DRX, the loss against RNG, the loss against GenG after pretty much a perfect spring split back in 22. There was, the evolution of them, and also them being so close to being eliminated by KT after losing against Damwon in the regional qualifier, probably the worst version of Damwon that we've ever seen, where they lose against them in a game 5 because Showmaker pops off on a LeBlanc. The framing of the story in terms of how big of a jump they needed to make to actually compete. I hate when the framing is, oh, LPL is just bad, they're just shit. T1 always win, haha. Like, I think it just robs you from the enjoyment. It's kind of like, imagine you watch like a superhero movie. You don't get to see the downfall. You don't get to see the pain. You don't get to see the flashbacks of his childhood and all the pain that he went through and all that jazz. It's like, oh, the superhero's here. He beats the shit out of the villain, and that was the whole movie. It's like 20 minutes, boom. It's like, no. We need the whole framing of the picture. I think you just rob yourself from so much enjoyment. If you don't give it the proper context, I feel like.
No, I mean, if people don't know, if you look it up, they'd lost something like 4 finals in a row, something before they won that Worlds in 2023. Like, they just routinely kept losing over and over again. It was actually brutal. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, the weird thing people miss is if they were secretly the best all along, what's the story? The story's nothing. That's garbage. I agree with you. The actual story, like, here's the funny thing, Yamato. You actually, if you were going to make a Hollywood movie about Faker's career, you wouldn't make it about the first half when he was the best and he smurfed on everyone. That's Superman. Yeah, you can't be beaten. What do you want? Like, if anything, you'd make it about this second half when he's actually supposed to be past his best, and he's not even. By the way, he's not even the best in his role in his country. And then also, there's all these like super teams being formed around him that are trying in China, in Korea. That would be a fucking baller fucking story, and at the end he pulls it out anyway and wins. What a fucking amazing ending that would be. That would be like some fucking Karate Kid shit where you think he's going to lose and he just wins that second in it. Even though obviously the joke is to refer to the thing I said on the past episode. Obviously, like in the Karate Kid, you think Daniel LaRusso, Faker, is the hero, but actually it's Chauffy, Johnny, whatever his name is, that Bond kid. He was the real hero in the Karate Kid, just this douchebag using magic. I don't know what magic T1's using, whatever, it doesn't matter. But here's the thing, Yamato. Speaking of using magic to get what you've done, we can't offer magic. We're not fucking Hogwarts, but we have some brilliant sponsors that can offer people the ability to do things they couldn't do before, right?
A lot of my friends, me including, is like we've had moments in our life where we discuss our bosses. It's like people that rule over us, our bosses, and somehow the narcissism of bosses, it tends to be ingrained in every single walk of life, in esports, in construction, in like selling carpets downtown. All my friends, we all come to the same conclusion: having someone over you just is a big, big pain point. And it's just, we complain about the bosses and they're making decisions that don't make any sense. And we're just sitting there discussing, how can we free ourselves from those shackles? How can we become independent? And then suddenly the ideas start flowing. It's like, oh, maybe we should sell something. Maybe we should start our own business. And then boom, there was always a stop, a halt, because the idea of opening up your own store is extremely, extremely overwhelming. But that's why Shopify started their own business. They have their own business, basically making your business a reality. I've been talking about doing my own shop for a very long time in terms of selling Pokemon cards. It's something that I'm working on the backside. And I've been using Shopify to just, build that out. And it feels so convenient and comfortable to actually have just a pathway. It's like the design process is super, super easy. It is, everything is streamlined. How you file your taxes and all your invoices and everything, how everything lands. It just makes it so easy to do everything yourself. Because for the most amount of the time, everyone feels the same. Everyone out there, all of my friend group, I believe in their potential. I just want them to take the step out of there, because everyone feels that same fear for some reason, that they are overwhelmed about enacting their own idea. But I think Shopify really, really makes it streamlined and makes it super, super easy. They have a bunch of features. Shopify is, of course, like a commerce platform behind like millions of businesses around the world. And 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names like Mattel and Gymshark, the brand's just getting started. They have it all. Get started with your own design studio. That's something I've used. It's like you can just basically use the AI tool. You write in a couple of keywords and they design something for you. And the use cases of the templates and how you move around all the elements on your own personal site is super, super easy and streamlined. You can accelerate your content creations. Shopify is just packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, which is super, super important. It's all about capturing, whoever glances on your website in a very efficient manner. And this is super important. You can even enhance your product photography, get the word out. It's very important. It's like now, as I'm mentioning this, there's a lot of people out there already rushing to make a website on Shopify and making their own store. So you need to have ways to, of course, stand out. And, you can do that through Shopify. It's as if you have a marketing team behind you and easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or just strolling, all over the world. So if you're ready to sell, of course, you're ready for Shopify. I managed to convince some of my homies they're running their own businesses through Shopify. You can too. Turn your big business idea into money, of course, with Shopify on your site. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/summoning. Go to, of course, shopify.com/summoning to, of course, start your new life. Get rid of that boss that is, ruling over you. Become your own boss and create your own freedom through Shopify.
Your freedom. I like that angle on the end there. Okay, good stuff. All right. Right. What about, there was one more detail I actually forgot, but we'll bundle it in now. There was one more piece of T1 news that I forgot to mention, which will tie into what we discussed before the ad, which is it was actually announced today that Faker has signed for 4 more years with T1. Now, first things first on this, Yamato, is like, bearing in mind, there was a very real possibility in the last couple of years, it was almost hinted at, like, maybe Faker will just retire. Like, first of all, I'm assuming, by the way, it goes without saying, if you're T1 and you've spent as much money as you have on this guy, like he has an enormous salary to this day, you obviously want him to retire as a T1 player. You don't want him to do the thing of like, he's not good enough for T1 anymore, so, he's going to the LPL. No, ideally, you want this guy to do some Kobe Bryant Lakers shit where he never, ever plays in another jersey. He's just in this team forever. And I would assume it goes without saying that what you actually also want is when he's retired, he doesn't just fuck off like, see ya, I'll see you in all the Hall of Fame shit. No, you want him to be the ambassador of T1 for years going forwards. And much as years later, actually after StarCraft 2, they even brought Boxer and people like that back to T1 and had them involved with the org, etc. So I even think, Yamato, I'll give someone a very quick analogy here. This actually, I think, is the purpose of the contract being 4 years. I don't think they actually think in 4 years from now that T1's still going to be a world's contender and Faker's going to be loading up mid lane going, let me Silas in. Like, listen, this guy's had wrist issues the last few years. He's played, by the way, as long as he could almost play at this point in time. Like, the joke is, there actually aren't players left, as far as I can tell, who've played longer than Faker anymore. Like, even the other people with insane longevity started after him, like the Makos of the world, etc. Remember, people like Deft have gone now, guys. So, at this point, right, I actually think the purpose of it being 4 years is to sort of be like, wink, wink, he's just here forever, guys. Because this actually happened in the UFC many times over. If people don't know, the reason why you don't get to see Conor McGregor fight anymore is that's what the purpose of his contract was, Yamato. They signed him for a whole bunch of fights in the UFC, not so they can have him do the fights, because he's not a top fighter anymore. He clearly doesn't even do the fucking sport. He's all doing business and screaming in people's faces about bare knuckle fight. But the reason he signed to that deal is so no one else can take him. That's what you're doing there. What you're basically saying is, look, enjoy the money. They're never going to call you on this fight, but you'll just stay here and you'll just be here until the end. That's it. Because also, if you're the UFC, the last thing you ever want is Conor McGregor going and doing combat sports elsewhere. He's your guy. You built him up. So what do you think of this move? Like, first of all, do you think does he retire in T1? And then here's the other angle. This is a harder one. How long do you actually think he can play? How long can he play in T1?
I think on the second one, we can start there. I think the main question would be is like, who would be capable of replacing him? Because like everyone's like floating ideas, right? Yeah. Everyone's floating ideas. It's like my view. It's like my hope and my dream view would be, a scenario where basically similar to how Kasparov lost to Magnus and then started to coach him, like similar in that way. I view Faker Kasparov of League and basically Chovy as the Magnus Carlsen of League.
Okay.
If Chovy somehow made it onto T1 and Faker would still be involved with the team, that would be absolutely insane. People would be obnoxious about the Chovy Worlds wins because they wouldn't count them for some weird reason. But I think that idea in itself would be insane because a lot of these other names who would be capable of replacing him, it's like you need to find someone that is at the peak of their career and has a lot more to give. And like a player like BDD, he might be popping off and playing super well, but he is very, very deep into his career already, and he's not playing at his peak in my mind. It's like his peak was maybe during the KT Super Team. He's still playing super, super well, but he's doing so in a way that makes him, of course, look a lot better because he's playing with players that are not so good. A scout.
And doesn't that also feel like, wait a minute as well, BDD also feels like some Figo joins fucking Real Madrid after Barcelona shit too. It's like, bro, he was like I know what you mean about it. Here's the problem. I think despite what you say, if T1 fans know they can't have Faker anymore, they would love having Chovy, mate. All of a sudden, if anything, they'd probably go the other way, bro. I always said he was the best. Like they'd just do that shit, wouldn't they? But I don't know if they'd accept BDD is my problem. Because I do feel like one, he is a bit underrated anyway, and then two, they just view him as a loser and they think he's just losing to Faker all the time. I think in some ways that'd be a hard sell. You don't think so?
Yeah, it would be very, very tough. It's like I don't think there would be anyone capable besides Chovy.
Because I do think he'd be very good. Like BDD could still be good for sure. Yeah, Scout was obviously another good name. Yeah,
it's like people mentions like Showmaker, but like Showmaker Scout, they're not playing so well currently. Yeah, it's like that's the like Faker has outlived them. You know, like it doesn't work. But Faker seems to be like the type of player that just wants to. I think he will play longer, way longer than he should.
Okay,
that's my imagination. I think at this point, he's been competing at the highest level for such a long time. I imagine that this is what gives him like the biggest thrill. I think that he's going to play until his arms fall off. Like that's how I imagine it. I think that he's going to play for a very, very long time. I do believe he's going to retire in T1. I think everything points to it. I think the timing of the signing as well, considering they just made the big deal with, of course, like the Saudis with the Red Sea Foundation and so forth. I guess my man is getting loaded, you know. I'm imagining.
And you notice he was literally the one in the photo shoot too, bro. It wasn't just like, you know, a T1 party. He was there like literally shaking the hand of whoever that guy with the head dressing thing is in Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
I think this was like a couple of years in the making. The moment Faker dropped that his dream dinner was with MBS, you know, like he saw the dollar signs in his eyes. So I imagine he's going to. I don't know, like in T1, I don't know how long he's going to play. It's always like a big question mark.
Sure.
I'm worried about his wrist and so forth. Maybe there's a player in the future that would be capable of replacing him, but I think the entire league ecosystem kind of sighs out in relief, you know? At least he's not going to do like the Michael Jordan thing where he goes off and plays like a different esport that nobody cares about, you know? Obviously, baseball was a big sport, so maybe not that harsh, but it would be random if Faker just got interest in something else and peaced out.
But this way, I can tell you, if people don't know, Michael Jordan was like okay at baseball. I'm not an expert, but I've looked up like what people said about who had like knowledge of baseball. He was all right, okay, but the problem is, I know what you mean. What makes that whack, I can tell you, if anyone saw Flash play StarCraft 2, they'll know this. It's really whack when someone who's like truly goated plays a different esport that they're just not as good at, mate. Like, because part of your brain can never rationalize, like, why aren't they winning? Like, and it actually just sucks because you think you want to see it. Sounds exciting, but it just isn't actually. You want to see them play their original sport, of course.
So I think the 4 years, amazing. Like we have always given T1 props for managing to secure Faker because I just wish I was a fly on the wall in some of those Faker off seasons in terms of how wanted he must have been at the peak of like money flowing, whether it was in North America or in China, because people were willing to swing a lot of fucking money, and now the longevity of Faker within T1 is really paying its dividend now because I do think that Faker staying in this organization made it continuously grow in terms of fandom and also the potential revenue that they could make. I think this is the biggest win for T1.
Okay, let's flip over then. Because one thing I want to discuss now is this. We talked on the last episode when it was still up in the air, like what will happen with the BLG jungle scenario. Like obviously they teased us with the JJ angle and then just fucking bait and switched us that it was Shad0w, who people don't know, by the way, if you ever did watch like LGD, he did have some carry games, but the problem is I always got really scared because it reminded me when he was on Mad Lions. If he was in Mad Lions, he locked in Lee Sin, get ready, it's going to be fucking cinema, he's going to smurf. But then if you had to lock in, like I'm going to go off the top of my head and say like Trundle or something, I doubt he would be that good, you know. He wasn't that player. And then the joke, like we say, is people forget he was even on Mad Lions because they really did just like, you know what, just stay here. We'll go back home without you. And he just stayed in fucking China seemingly and just played there for years. So it turns out it is actually Shad0w. And even better, Yamato, we even teased this. You said it jokingly that you want someone to shimmy up a tree, like for the Uzi EDG thing, and looked at it happened. Someone actually got a weird candid pic of Shad0w at the gym working out with like a coach and some player from BLG. So it was just obvious he's joining, because let's be weird. It'd be weird to be working out with him if you're not joining. And then the maddest thing of all, Yamato, is he was obviously doing work in the gym, because if people don't know, he actually has been carrying in the fucking games. Like, first of all, he did it against Tarzan. Yes, jet lag Tarzan, but even so, he did it against Tarzan. Look, the game today gives a fuck on this last game. It's not that big a deal, but he is still having some actual Smurf games. It's actually quite an interesting addition. So what do you think of Shad0w on BLG then?
I think the start has been amazing. Like, I was skeptical because I just figured that whoever comes in here needs to have like a backbone of steel, because that's just how it seems. Because Wade got like, he turned into dust, and same thing with Beishwan over a very short period. And I thought that Beishwan had similar characteristics. It's like Beishwan also carried games on Thunder Talk and made the team interesting at times when they shouldn't have been. And I think Shad0w did the same for FPX, because FPX, like them losing their jungler, TD losing their jungler, these teams are just fucking completely collapsed. But nevertheless, Shad0w had some carry games there, but I didn't think, it kind of seemed like playground, League of Legends. It's like, oh, you have a carry game here and there. It's like being good over a longer period of time is a very different test when you get into playoffs. That's where a lot of the usual suspects kick into gear, and they show you, why they're always there, whether it's a Tian or a Kanavi and so forth. But I think the start has been good for Shad0w. I think he showed a very good range of play. I thought his Trundle games were good, Zinzao, Sejuani. I think that on stage, I don't want to be that person on Twitter that does the armchair psychology, but he's smiling. He seems to be having a good time. And that seems to be a great sign if you're a Billy jungler, because it's like in the beginning, Beishwan was smiling, but then it just disappeared over time, whereas you're getting dragged in different directions like some ancient torture device where his limbs are just being pulled to bot and to mid and I don't know where the hell. Shad0w starts, I think you couldn't have asked for more. I think that another additional detail, I do think that how On and Elk played was also looking good. Bin also had, a kind of just decent games, which is good, because he was like one of the biggest disappointments.
Looks to me like that's even a difference already in BLG. Bro, it looks like Shad0w plays way more to fucking Bin's lane than Beishwan ever did. Like, this guy looks like Bin's going to be his best fucking mate.
Oh, it just seems like there's as a start, it's like I want to be careful, because the start with Beishwan was also like solid.
Yeah,
it was like, oh wow, it's I want to be very careful about not like overreaching, but
yes.
I do think that with what we saw at EWC, that was the worst Billy has ever been.
Oh, for sure.
Like that loss against G2 was like pathetic. I was really bad. I've been as getting solo killed by someone like Broken Blaze Jax as Gwen. Like his probably highest winner champ in his career. Then something is just completely off, and the problem isn't just jungle. But these first two series, a lot of things seem to be in place, which is super good. LPL this year has been very, very back and forth about everybody. I hope the Billy continue in same form, because we need something more to be excited for than just anyone's legend. And of course, IG, because we love IG. But a third team would be nice.
You bring it up, mate, but that's where I was going right next. Because first of all, listen, I'll start reasonable, then I'll go unreasonable instead of the other way around. So what I'll say is, first of all, JDG isn't the JDG of old. Like, spoiler, they've changed their support and their top laner. And by the way, I thought their top laner was a really good player. So I think they've actually made their team worse. Plus, they've had the coaching changes. So it's not really the same team as like last split. They were a team that should have had a shout to maybe even go to MSI. Like, they should have been right there battling, and they just shit the bed. But this IG win over them is fucking pretty nice, actually. And obviously, again, Wei himself has hit the ground running. Like, all these jungle changes so far are working in the short term. But I agree. I'm also a little bit worried about some of those other ones, because the real problem with this is, I know what you mean when you say that about how the jungler played, but I also think it goes the other way, because this happens in Counter-Strike too, mate. The reason you have what you call the honeymoon period when you sign a player is also because when you're the team, like let's use, in this case, IG or BLG, you can use IG as well though, when you're a team that's had some issues, when the new guy comes, for the first 2 weeks, you're doing everything you can to accommodate him, mate. You're like, hey, you take that off, it's all right, you can just go to the other lane for now. It's not until like a month in, mate, when you're locked in like a normal game, you're like, hey, fucking come top lane now. Like, that's when it's different. That's when all the niceties go away. So I am a little bit nervous, but even for IG, the opening matches look good, man. This actually looks like this move's been a positive.
Oh, definitely. Wei on this side, I think he just brings like an elevated sense of stability, which I think IG just lacked.
For sure.
It reminds me a lot of when Wei came in first time to Bilibili, where Bilibili was a very, very sporadic and chaotic team, and they just thrived in that. But after losing to GenG, they just needed to find a way to take a step back and play more macro-oriented games. And I think Wei provided that back then in the beginning, of course, in the middle of summer last year. And here too, I feel the same way. I think this JDG series Wei for me was a standout. I think the Trundle Java game looked solid. But this is the perfect segue for the Rookie glazing session, because Rookie just keeps doing it. It's like the way he plays, the way he postures, the way he plays our situations.
I think the game was dope.
It's just beautiful. Rookie.
Yes.
I feel bad for any League fan that hasn't put time into watching Rookie, because whenever he's on, it's so obvious that he is, because he will take command of the game in a way that very few players do. He just gets a spotlight on him on stage, and the way he played this Victor game and the Silas game, it just makes me so happy to see when Rookie's playing well. So at times, the Shy is doing his usual business, dies a little bit too much, dies in the lanes of scenarios. And at least in the JDG series, when I saw the Shy walking away from a turret in the lanes of scenario and not dying in a 1v3, I was like, okay, IG might make worlds, brother. They might make worlds.
Oh, by the way, that's totally plausible. If you look at the teams right now, once you get past anyone's legend, no one even knows yet how BLG is going to be in a month from now. Like, if you only need to be 3, and by the way, there's actually 4 go from LCK and LPL, because if you don't know, they're doing what we used. Remember when we had the Golden Guardians versus BDS game? They're going to do that for LPL and LCK for the last spot. So if there's 4 potential spots, man, they can be one of these 4. That's totally reasonable right now. If you actually even look some of the other squads, like I said, the JDGs of the world might have even taken themselves out of the race. That might not even be something you have to worry about at this point in time. So I think it's totally plausible. And I know what you mean. Like, this was a great series. Like, one of the things people might not appreciate about Rookie is this, right? I can tell, no matter what he says in interviews, Faker has, especially with the OG FK era of T1, he has clearly not even tried to play the super dominant, I smash the lane, I get all the solo kills, give me all the resources and all the picks, and I carry the game. He doesn't even try to do that, Yamato. Like, he understands how the game works now. He also understands he has very strong players elsewhere, and it's more about things like, do we have a comp that we can pilot, and can we do our mid-game skirmish type shit? The difference with Rookie is, Rookie never got the memo that this is 10 years after he started being really good. He still plays like he thinks every day that it was just, he just had a bad back the other day and he should be the best player in the world. Like, he still plays like that. It's why, by the way, sometimes he can have the odd game, because sometimes he'll be trying to play that against when people scout at the MVP and they're just the best player in the league, or fucking Knight's just God. He'll just go straight into these motherfuckers and try and just hand them, which, look, on the one hand, it's not going to always win you the game, but I know what you mean. It's hard not to love that fucking playing style, though, Yamato. Essentially, the analogy would be, Rookie is one of these motherfuckers, like some Max Holloway type guy, where he's just pointing at the fucking ground at the end of the fight. You know what? You can get KO'd too, but tell you what, everyone loves that. Who the fuck doesn't fuck with that style of fighting? It's what we all here to watch. He's not doing that thing where, I'm just point fight and win by 1 point with all defense. No, Rookie's game is like I said, if you watch that Victor game, he still thinks it's 2018, mate. He doesn't give a fuck.
Nah, it was beautiful. The Max Holloway reference was on point. Got me thinking about the steak ad that Vitality just released. I was like, "Well, Max Holloway's in this bitch." I was jealous. Apex gets to talk to Max Holloway. Apex acting was insane though.
It was good.
Completely
Especially because if people don't know, it was supposed to be a direct homage to a really famous 90s French film called La Haine, which is like a classic cult classic film. If you never watched it, it's very good. And essentially, he copies a scene that they do, which at the time was revolutionary because it was shot through a mirror. And what people forget is because it's shot through a mirror, they had to do some like super complicated thing to make that shot work the way it did. But it's one of the all-time like great shots, basically. So yeah, no, it was baller. I thought it was pretty sick. And also, it will always be jarring to me when that shit happens, Yamato. Like, there was a few years back in the era of when Fortnite was popping off, so we're probably talking about like 5 years ago now. They once had an ad during the Super Bowl. You know, the most expensive ads in the world are during the Super Bowl halftime. They had an ad for like, I can't even remember what it was actually for, but it was like it was all these NFL legends like Jim Brown and stuff, like the most legendary players ever, and they were all going ninja's here, and it was the fucker that used to work for like Monty's team Renegades, like the streamer guy. And it was all like, so I know what you mean. The same thing when you see like I'm not prepared because I just know we're only a few years away from ads like that where it'll just be like fucking literally, you know, like fucking Mbappe just calling up like Zeus, like, "Hello, mate, how are you doing in the tournament?" Like, but it's gonna be so weird, isn't it? Because he just like, what the fuck, we're all nerds. Like, how's this shit up? What's this weird crossing of the cultures, you know? Because I agree that ad is fucking mad, isn't it? It's so weird.
Before I get back on IG, I just wanted to highlight one other moment in time when PSG came to the European League of Legends when they wanted to make a team. I remember the first ad they posted was with their, I believe, left winger Lucas Moura, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I think that moment in time, everyone really got hyped. Everyone wanted to join PSG. I remember we had a conversation with PSG where I offered them basically the whole Splice roster with Mickey, Wunder, Cooks, and so forth. We wanted to not sign again with Splice and join PSG in Challenger to qualify them.
Oh, wow, right.
Of course. But they didn't want us, like, which was a crazy decision. But it was funny how that just that name brand recognition and having the pro player there, just like the football player there, Lucas Moura, just really sucked everyone in to just want to join the org because we were enchanted by that moment in time. It was crazy.
That could have been dope. PSG Mickey X. Who's he, like Nuno Mendes or something? Some fucking baller defender that shuts all the great players down. Okay, I see it. I got you on that one.
But then PSG in Europe turned out to be a flop. But back to IG, who is definitely not going to turn into a flop. You know,
bro, and everything's turning around now. Like, mate, even Gala's having all these fucking Smurf games. And also, mate, speaking of someone where Aphelios coming back, this guy used to love Aphelios. And his champion pool, by the way, it should be perfect now. He's got all the fucking champions he used to play.
And also MKoi. MKoi has had like some of his best series. Maybe it's just like the theory we had, you know, it's like MKoi to be able to lead, and maybe Wei is just a little bit, you know, more on his page. I thought MKoi, especially in that series when he played the Rakan game, the Brom game, really solid. No more classic MKoi death right around the Dragon Pit, that area. His heat map where he dies there at least 2 times in the series is not happening anymore, and it's good to see the return to form for MKoi. I think that for me, in all the inconsistencies that happen in the LPL, I feel like IG has been surprisingly, let's say, solid in a way, where there are some flaws in their players, but it doesn't seem like it ever affects them. They lose a game like garbage. The next game, they're going to do their best.
Veterans. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they are just... like the other team is like, oh, they just lost the series in a horrible way. Who are they going to remove now? Are they going to replace 3 players and then remove the coach and bring in someone's uncle? It's like with IG, it's like, oh, they are solid. They're going to lose here, but no problem. They bounce back. And I like that a lot in a region currently that is just so messed up by, let's say, GMing or just how teams are organized.
And obviously, as referred to earlier, we can talk about it now. If you're BLG, the biggest boost you could ever get, no matter what their form is to just beat anyone's legend. Like, if you wanted to get hyped, you're a BLG fan, what more could you ask for than this? I mean, this was a fucking... Look, I will say, even though I agree, that LPL actually had slightly more grace period for their players, at least than fucking LCK, but holy shit, mate. Some of those Anyone's Legends players look like, you know, when you just cram all night long and you didn't do your actual revision for your exams, and the night before you just go, well, just guess I won't sleep then. And you come out with that, like we have a saying in English, because we have all the idioms in English, that your eyes look like 2 piss holes in the snow, because, mate, they're just like black rings around your eyes. Like, they look tired as fuck. But I tell you what, they got beaten. They got fucking beaten straight up, 2-1.
Yep. That bro, they even got beaten by Weibo Gaming, which is crazy to think about. It's like I thought Flandre would be able to clutch it out there with the Smolder locking into the Kesante, but their drafts are in a very, very wonky place. You know, the main thing that we highlighted the last time is like what AL need to work on if they want to be a world's contender is like how deep are their pools. But that game 3 against Weibo Gaming looks very similar to that game 5 against GenG, where they picked the Lucian, Bard, Sylas completely blind and dry. A Sylas into a composition that just counters you completely. It's like you don't get away with that. I'm happy they didn't get away with it, because when we look at AL, it's through the lens of what is the term. Obviously, from this position they're in, with all the turmoil of everyone around them, I think not winning Summer would still be like a disappointment, considering where they positioned themselves and the problems of top esports, Bilibili, and so forth. So pressure is still on them, and it's a very, very different scenario to be in as the reigning champion, where everyone's going to look at you very, very different. I think that conversation also extends to, you know, everyone expected WE to just be really, really good, and you just beat IG left and right. It's like, you know, being good for one split is fine and all, you know, but keep holding on is very difficult. We've seen that in the likes of Milky Way and his FPX, where they had like that tremendous split where they were having incredible games, and then there was a drop-off because teams catch up. They tend to look at you very differently, and they tend to respect you, and they tend to kind of break you down in a way where your strengths can become your weaknesses, because people will be able to mold themselves around you. And WE don't look the same.
And I'll even say as well, specifically for that BLG series, bro, that even looked like you were burned out, because they almost won it 2-0. They were like leading in game 2. And then it's that thing where I've seen this happen so many times in Counter-Strike, bro. Usually it's what happens to underdogs, which is an underdog will almost beat you 2-0. But if you hold on as like the bigger name team and you get to that third game, they're like spent, they're out of gas. They haven't got anything. They just have nothing left after that. Like, that's why I actually feel bad for anyone's legend as well, because again, I'm not saying they have to have like 3 weeks off, but I feel like you need an entire week at least. But you know what, Yamato, I'm going to say this as somebody who's worked events. Forget an entire week of break, an entire week to not play League. You just need some time, like, decompress and go away and have a fucking break. That's why, in a weird way, we do almost need like mini off seasons, and we're gonna have these giant leagues that last and then go straight into an international. Like, that's too much to play, mate. I think you saw it like that's why I brought up that point at the beginning. Like, if anything, anyone's legend did fucking GenG a favor, because they just showed that like everyone's feeling the fucking the toll of having been to those international events. Like, it takes you a while to get back to normal. You just do. Because I know what you mean. Like, the BLG one, I can at least forgive. They've done the roster move. The Weibo Gaming one, like, mate, look, Weibo Gaming have been way better this split, but you have no business losing to them. Like, on paper, you're supposed to beat them every day of the week, mate. Come on.
And by extension, it's also, it's like you don't get the rest, but you also don't get to really digest the lessons of the international. It's like you want to be able to look at what you did, what worked, what you want to have as takeaways from your losses. It's like you want to get the most out of those series losses against GenG or the T1 or whatever. It's like you have so much to digest, because even between MSI and EWC, there was no time at all. So you have so many series that you can take a look at and learn from. But if you are thrown right into it, where do you find the time? Where do you find even the energy to do so? That's why I mentioned, it's like the LEC. It's like we have a 4-horse race with the top 4, but G2 and Koi spent the last 2 months actually competing and actually, you know, practicing against the best of the best, and they get the time to rest and to actually digest it properly, while the other teams were borderline like just rotting away in Europe. In that case, it becomes a massive advantage. The line of it being an advantage or disadvantage is very narrow.
I also think as well, it's telling that like they're winning the fucking first game in these series and then losing. Like I say, they just look like, mate, they just can't handle. Remember, they've also, when they've been in the international tournaments, made all these BO5 series as well, where you've gone to the absolute limit, you've showed everything. As you say, it's even a different patch. There's another wild thing where, like, guys, it takes fucking even content creators some days to absorb a new patch. You have to just come back home and start playing immediately. And in some ways, Yamato, forgetting just process, you have to just delete some of the things that just happen in those tournaments. Like, you've just been taught by the game to play it a certain way. Basically, you have to throw that in the bin. Because I know what you mean. I think it's ridiculous, mate. Like, Like they were in these series. They could have won both these series 2-0. Instead, they lost them 2-1. So there has to be the course corrector. They've got to get back. Luckily for them, I will say though, Yamato, I think the way they played on aggregate over those two international tournaments and then the last LPL split, like. One of the things I keep emphasizing about this team is this isn't the team I ever worry about that'll do the TES, FPX, go to an international tournament and just shit the bed and lose to everyone. No, like there's like a level of consistency to this team I think is quite impressive. I even think if you watch these two series they just lost, they're not getting completely murked. Like the difference is T1 murked GenG way harder. Anyone's edging is in these games, mate. They're in some of the fights. They still clearly are trying, by the way. They're putting all the fucking effort. You can tell they'll go crazy on a skirmish trying to get back into a game. So I actually think the sort of baseline floor level of Anyone's Edge does impress me. It's why I would still take them right now, even off these losses. I would take them to win some. Like I say, I can't wait for Worlds with this team. This is going to be like an actual LPL team you can believe in, mate. Like you can put some faith in this team that they're good and that they will play a certain minimum level internationally.
I think just the hallmark is like we praise Tabe so much, but the hallmark of a well-coached team, I think most of the time is just how do they respond to resistance? Like anything that Tabe has said or how they've kind of operated or just carried themselves throughout the last two splits is very clear that these guys, can be directed, and a kind of a point of reference. Like if there's any pressure or they have a discrepancy, he seems to be able to use the right motivation to actually push them and to move them forward, because we've seen clear progressions from this team. And if we compare that by contrast to Bilibili, I think the moment a player like Bin or a player like, let's say, Elk or Knight, even if these guys show signs of them like giving up or they don't believe in what you're doing anymore, which I think can happen rapidly with what we've seen so far after, the sweetness of being at a World Finals and playing a Game 5 and then pulling yourself back into the LPL, the stick of motivation, you can't utilize it on these guys. It's like when things are not going good, they need to make a change. AL is the opposite of that. They seem to be very motivated, very hungry, and it seems like Tabe can be very effective with these guys. And I have full trust that they will get the right lessons out of course, the internationals and move on strong.
What's great is I would normally say, are we just looking at Weibo as like, the upset merchants? They got those ones. If you look at the schedule for this week, we're going to get our answer. The next games are against BLG and IG. Bro, after this week, if Weibo Gaming, and don't have to win those games, if you just give a good accounting for yourself, we just said it earlier, bro, there are some slots wide open at the top of the LPL. If you want to go to Worlds, it's right there. And I tell you what, if they can follow up on those results, they could be one of the 3 or 4 teams. I think it's plausible. What do you think of Weibo Gaming?
Yeah, the big thing to highlight, right, is the Hang and Crisp trade that happened. And I have to say that Weibo...
It's worked, hasn't it?
And it's just Light just looks like himself again. I don't know, Light just... I don't know. They did the thing where they separated. He tried, dating somebody else. He was like, "Holy shit, my life sucks."
Yeah, exactly.
It's like it's like nobody's watering the plants. There's no breakfast when he wakes up. All these little things he took for granted.
Yeah,
because Light is looking good again. Light and Crisp look dominant. They look good. I think Light reminded us that he's been one of those ADs that has been very underrated. But I thought that in the last split with Hang, it was just Weibo just didn't have any traction. And on top of that, Zhao, here in the summer, similar to when Weibo made that run Worlds, I think Zhao is actually like playing the game again. He's a presence, and it seems like if Light and Zhao are playing well, I think that this is a team that can definitely, they have the namesakes and they have the power to actually have good games. So this change to Crisp looks positive so far.
No, by the way, the sad thing if you are Light is Light and Hope might be the 2 Chinese AD carries. So we're just forgotten to history. These guys have been like world fucking LPL finals and champions stuff like they've had a fucking legit careers where they've been a world's many times. Like it's fucking ridiculous. So no, and then also I do agree. The thing with Zhao is It's like, by the way, he just doesn't have a team as good as Fakers. Xiao0w does the Faker thing too. He can go through 3 months where he's playing dodgy or his game's off or you think his champion's gone, but you can never count these guys out. If you're a truly like all-time great Hall of Fame type player like that, you'll just, again, one of their secrets is the ability to somehow forget that they're in a slump or that they've had bad play or that they're not the best anymore. They'll just wake up one day and bring you a series. You'll be like, fuck, I see why he's still around. Like, this guy still believes he has it. And, you know, maybe he does. Like, you see the odd Xiao0w game still where you're like, he's actually fucking good, mate. Like, you keep forgetting with how many killers there are in the league and all these new players like the fucking Shanks of the world. Like, some of the legendary players have still got it. Maybe not as much. They can't do it every week, but they can still pull out that one big game that'll impress you, especially when you think you've counted them out.
Oh, definitely. I will never forget that whole Worlds round, the Xiao0w, Light, the Shy, and they just brought in, I believe, Wei, and that's change just made them go all the way to finals and then to world finals as well, because they were very, you know, elegant in, of course, the change up of the meta that T1 presented back in 23. They were also the one on that side of the bracket that just played the range champions. Crisp and Light did it beautifully. And Xiao0w was a big part of that run, because the Shy regionally did not play well. He just did well at Worlds against Bin and the like. So there's so much history that they carry that they can just, you know, they just have a bag of, it's like, yo, I did this shit in the past. Why can't I do it again? They could just utilize it as a weapon and just throw it out there. So, you know, someone to point out, if anything, I am losing faith in Scout. I was the biggest, you know, Scout fan for the longest time. I thought that he had like some decent weeks in the previous split, but currently with the JDG changes, I understand.
It's the worst year of his career, bro. It's easily the worst.
It's this is a player that got MVP after regular splits. He was just doing crazy things with weaker rosters. He was on the same trajectory as, of course, Tarzan, but of course he had that year on EDG and a couple of years on EDG where he won Worlds and so forth. But like the LNG times, Scouts just, I thought he was so damn underrated. And it pained me that they lost Worlds the way they did, because leading up to that, he just had an insane LPL split where you could argue that he was just playing better than Knight even in an era where the LPL mid lanes were extremely competitive with Knight and Yagao, and of course, you know, Scout performing at the level that they did. But now I think the level he's playing out is just straight up unforgivable. Today's Young game, he was dying to ganks left and right. Cream was just 10 times better than him in the Asia game. And then the follow-up as well, that actually looked a little bit hopeful. But even on Talia, he just wasn't there at all. And it's always like, if a player is underperforming this hard, it gets to the point where I need to ask the question, it's like, are the things that are going on around him actually affecting him to that level? Because in the context of his legal problems, whether it was with EDG and him moving on from the contract.
Oh, you think that could be in the back of his head because he's getting sued, basically?
I don't know if it's I don't know how much.
No,
because it just seems psychological at the level he's playing. It's never been this bad, and it's like borderline one of the worst performing players in all of LPL currently. It looks tremendously bad.
Especially because the difference is, last split, Piers unironically was one of the better ADCs in the whole league. And actually, Jun's pretty good the whole time, mate. The joke of Jun is ever since he left BLG, he's just been good the whole time. Like, he's a good player. That's why the joke we always make if you're an LPL fan is, that's what BLG need. They need a sort of a Jun type jungler and say, you already had him, you fucking idiots. Like, why are you all like this? Why are you all like this? But anyway, here's the thing, Yamato. Much like me, Xiao0w is more of an older statesman, you know. He's been around the block a lot of the time. He doesn't want to faff around, you know. He's not the guy who's like obsessing over every tiny detail back in the day of like what runes to play to get the starting lane. You know, he's played a million laning phases. You know, laning phases come and go. He's just about getting through the laning phase into the team fights where you can have the biggest impact. Well, do you know what? If you asked me, that's the thing. If you're a man, not really about hygiene, are we? You know, he's a Mando, isn't he? Well, you know what? If he was to use Mando, then he could get all of his hygiene products taken care of. Because one of the best things is, obviously, we also hear, like when women go and travel and they take that extra suitcase with them, it's just beauty products. So, like, fucking eyeshadows and things to remove the wrinkles. Well, you know what? One of the beauties of Mando is they have all sorts of modern products that take care of your problems. That they have a 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar. So this basically works as a shampoo, a face wash, a body wash, a deodorant. The joke now being, you're all going, I thought my shower gel already did that. No, actually, believe it or not, your current one wasn't supposed to be used on all those parts of your body. You were just putting dodgy chemicals on. Well, no dodgy chemicals in Mando, and you can use it for all those 4 purposes. Insert Billy Mays voice. But wait, there's more. That's right. You can also use it to work up a shaving lather. So that's technically 5-in-1, isn't it? Wonderful stuff. Imagine that, getting 5-in-1 from one bar. And also, it's an acidified cleansing bar. I don't really know what that means, but when I was a boy, because that style of music was around at the time, people used to say that thing like, acid! I just wanted to say that. There you go. I can do that. That's me having a show. I can just say things, whether they actually apply or not. But also, it just makes your routine nice and easy. So now you've got loads of space for other things in your suitcase, haven't you? Like in this case, if you're Zhao, a world's trophy. All right, maybe getting ahead of myself on that one. But let's wait and see. Listen, if fucking broke-ass Faker can win him, maybe my boy Zhao can win Game 5 Lucian, pulls it out. Obviously, he just remembers in his whole brain the whole time. This will come in handy later on. Don't use the ult like FBI. Don't use the ult like FBI. Don't use the ult like FBI. And anyway, then he's good, because at that point he's actually killing people, not shooting it backwards through his own crowd like some sort of weird fucking anime move or something. And also they've got their sweat control deodorant stick. We just pointed out, Shad0w doesn't let anything phase him, mate. He'll just fucking lose a few series. He'll be like, whatever. I smell like a fucking multiple-time MSI champion from 2 rolls, bitch. See, he takes 2 rolls in one. Well, you know what? You can get 4 in one with the acidified stick. And they've got the deodorant stick. So the best thing about that is you stop the order before it even starts. It controls the order all day long, blocking it, much like Zhao blocked Yagao for making that Worlds final and actually getting a chance to maybe win Worlds over Faker. Never happened. Didn't happen. By the way, if anyone ever saw that series, go back and watch the top lane matchup of the Shy versus Bin from semi-final of season 13 Worlds. It was a banger, almost like some Ali versus Frazier, like heavyweight boxing match where people was taking the biggest blows from each other. And it's safe for all skin types, doctor developed. So you can block your order for up to 72 hours with all these wonderful products. And of course, if you've never tried Mando, like maybe Zhao who hasn't, they've got the starter pack. The starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. Could be deodorant wipes, put them next to your PC. Could be the mini body wash. As a special offer, this is different from the past ones, guys. New customers get 20% off site-wide using our code. Our code is, of course, summoning, easy enough to remember. So use code summoning at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. So that's shopmando.com. Please support our show. And if they ask where you heard about their products, say Last Free Nation or Summoning Insight. Right, let's get back into it. So there is another team we need to discuss, because here's the thing. Every time people write off the LPL, I always know who doesn't watch it, bro. Because at this point in time, mate, there's something weird going on. There's something weird going on. In fact, I'm going to look something up here, but I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, the connection has been made. And I even know that I am right. Right? At this point, there has to be some sort of magic. I'm not doing a cargo cult thing, but I sort of am at the same time. There has to be some sort of fucking magical thing to do with the soil of China being where top esports is insane. In fact, I'm right. The one time top esports with Knight made that semi and almost made the final in 2020 was when Worlds was in China. Bro, you know top esports, the name, no matter who they have can have Knight, they can have fucking anyone. When they leave China, they just like, what the hell? What, we've lost the skill vampires. They just lose all their talent. Bro, they're fucking too good in the LPL. I just watched them play in the series before now. Like, there's something magical about when they're on Chinese soil. This team just smurfs on everyone. It doesn't even make sense. Like, they still aren't, for real. Even though, yes, I know everyone's going to go, I don't give a fuck about Creamer. They are still one of the best teams in the whole LPL, Yamato. They're actually really good. Even with this roster move, which on paper, by the way, I think should be a downgrade. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, it just works. This team just wins games domestically, don't they?
It's just, for me, just Kanavi, Cream, These two are
Game 1 Kanavi. He's too good. He's too good.
So hard to beat these two. So hard to beat these two. Cream seems to be in good form, even like Ozzy. Like it just seems the last split, Cream was so awful, and I think that really, really hurt him because his form wasn't there. He even when he played the classics, just didn't really pull anything off. So it seems like the break has done wonders for Cream. You know, we are very careful about getting too hype about top esports, but at this point in time, they're 4-0. You know, you can't ask more from their start. They have made easy work of pretty much anyone that they played against. The Weibo series was kind of like, contested because that was a very, very big back and forth where Weibo threw and so forth, and maybe Weibo could have won, but Weibo seems to be doing well too, so there's no shame in that at the end of all things. Like top esports, we mentioned things to get excited for, like IG, AL, Bilibili now with Shad0w. It's like top esports, they are doing the right moves to start convincing us, because I think looking at how things look like right now, in a world where we have 4 teams qualified to the World Championship, and that best of 5 between Seed 4 versus Seed 4, Korea versus China, that is currently like building up to be a giga bang. Whether it's like a KT versus IG, or KT versus like a top esports versus Bilibili, like that's going to be a tremendous. So I'm getting excited for the LPL. Maybe my mistake, but I'm getting excited.
Well, I also agree. Another player that I feel like, it's not even that he was bad internationally, I just don't feel like he's ever been as good as he has domestically, is Kanavi. Mate, people who don't watch the LPL, they just think we're like making up stories. Like, this guy in the LPL is just one of like forget jungle, mate, he's just one of the best players. Like, if I said to you, here's the mission, Yamato, your job, there is no international player. It's just the LPL for 5 years, and you have to draft a team of players that would dominate the LPL. You actually might take Kanavi as your jungler, mate. This guy is too fucking good. Like, he has like crazy hands. When his feel for the game is on, he's really dominant as well. One of the things I love about him too, Yamato, is he doesn't just do that like old school like brain jungler thing of like, oh, like I know where he is, so you know we're gonna like control. His whole shit is like it's like he's not aware like catch up XP was invented years ago. He's still trying to do the shit from like 2017 where you jungle gap the guy and get all of his camps and like a million ahead on the CS. Like he tries it every time he can, Yamato. He always just accelerates the fuck out the jungle like that, and he's really good at doing it. Like I always felt like this must be one of those players where if you're another jungler, it's really intimidating to play against, because if he gets ahead of you, oh, it's fucking suffering trying to beat this guy, mate.
We just have so many, like we currently have like there's these 4 junglers, and I would put Kanavi in that conversation, that are just so complete, but just have like a certain element that they are really, really good at. Like the class of Tarzan, Canyon, Owner, and of course Kanavi. Like Kanavi for me belongs in that conversation because when he's on, I don't think there is a clear flaw to his game. I think the first stand trip for top esports was like super, super bad, and Kanavi is the type of player that is going to try to win the game rather than to lose gracefully, and he's going to look bad in the process. But when Kanavi is the hammer and he's playing a matchup like a Trundle versus a Maokai, he is extremely sharp. Even last split, I remember there were games where he was playing Nidalee together with, of course, Crisp, where they just took over the map completely, and he created CS advantages that were just miraculous almost. Kanavi as a like, this is the type of player that I wish at a certain point in time, if there was an angle for it, if Kanavi went to, for example, Korea into certain teams, I think this is a player that could have been like a massive, massive superstar. I remember back in 2023, like maybe people don't remember, but he was the jungler that was picked to, of course, play at the Asian Games, you know? That is a massive, massive... That's props, you know? It's like the class of Korean junglers. Canyon maybe had an off year, and obviously JDG had just won MSC, but being the one to get the exemption, like that is a massive, massive honor that required a lot of thinking, of course, from Koma's side, who made the roster in the end. Kanavi, he's the next one in line of a player that I believe deserves better. Tarzan, he's in the clear. Kanavi's next.
I know what you mean. People don't do that thought exercise. We've all done it with Scout. An obvious angle would be, bro, imagine a world where Kanavi comes back to Korea. Remember, he's fucking Korean, guys. Like, look, I'm sure by now he must have like half-decent Chinese. He's been there for so long. But even so, you put a player like that with an all-time great Korean mid laner, it's going to be fucking baller. Like, this guy, he might even have a level we haven't seen. Like, I'd love to see him back in the LCK, mate. Have him play with fucking Canyon and all those fuckers, Peanut every week. Like, I bet his level would be insane. Like, if anything, by the way, look, obviously T1's just signed orders, so they're not going for him. But, like, there's a lot of teams out there where jungle is still slightly sus over in Korea. Like, they don't have all the bet. Remember, people like the Causes of the world, fucking Lucid, like, these players aren't like world champions. Like, you could come and take one of these spots and make LCK even stronger. Like, maybe one day he does come back. Well, he never technically got to play, did he? Because he was on the fucking bench of Griffin or whatever. He was too young. But I'd love to see this guy go to LCK sometime. He is Korean.
You mentioned like Faker being good back in 2013 and like people not being around. It's like, I started thinking, it's like, how far back did Peanut play? Because now Peanut is the type of player that, you know, maybe he like it's time for him to move on, if anything, because I think that he is a very good player in the context outside of Fearless. But now when the meta is shifting and there's all these complete junglers, if Hanwha Life want to make a change coming into next year, maybe there's a conversation about the mid lane position.
Could be baller.
But Kanavi on Hanwha Life, like they've been sort of throwing around their checkbook for a long time. This could be a move for sure.
Oh, mate, if you want to take, bear in mind, GenG just has a cracked out super team now, and T1's pretty fucking good. If you want to, if you want to show as Hanwha Life, like because remember they have tons of money, that we care about being number one in Korea, bro. Imagine a world where they just announce like, yeah, by the way, we're just going to bring in Kanavi and like BDD or something like that, mate. That would be fucking a crazy off-season move. Like, and that's not like impossible. Again, surely Kanavi isn't going to play like his entire career in China. I imagine he wants to come back eventually. He's had a solid like 5 years there or something. Like, he could come back now. That would be a dope team to go to as well. I also think. Like, I agree with you. The problem with Peanut is this. It's not, again, people do this thing in Counter-Strike too, Yamato. If you've been on a top team and you used to be a top player, people act like the only options are stay on that top team and not be as good or retire. And it's like, no, there's a third option. Like, why can't Peanut, by the way, go and be a player in like the Nongshim or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, why can't he just go and be a veteran player? I know he was in Nongshim in the past, idiots, but I mean, as in like, he can just continue to play, but not for an elite team. Like, he clearly got loads in the tank. For me, with someone like him, the question just is, do you want to keep playing as a pro? Maybe you're the guy who doesn't want to go and do a real job or become a coach or whatever. You could still be very good. But the issue is, one, Fearless has exposed him too. He already had a limited champion pool anyway, but you can see when you get to the game 4, game 5, if you're a fucking Hanwha Life fan, your fucking butt cheeks get tight at that point in time because you're like, what the fuck's he even got left in the... And even worse, it's not even just what can he pick. You know things he's not going to pick. You know certain super mechanical junglers he's not going to lock in. So that means the other team does get an edge in the draft. And then also, he just isn't the mechanical player he once was. Like, it's so many years now that, like, look, he could pull off the odd game where he shows a bit of mechanics, but aside from that, he's almost committed himself to being the brain jungler, bro. He just, like, you can tell that he knows that's his job, and unfortunately for him, that's not as viable now. We're not in the old standard draft method. Fearless, I'm sorry, you probably do need someone who can just reach back and pull out some crazy fucking Viego pick or something that you're never going to play, Peanut, you know what I mean? And sorry, Kanavi is just better than you. I'm sorry, he just is. And if the whole thing was like, yeah, but Kanavi chokes, well, you can't be talking about that now, can you, Peanut? You know what I mean? Come on, son. Come on. Listen, you got first stand, but I'm sorry, it sounds like the Koreans don't even count that, bro. So I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what you want me to say.
We also remember the 2017 MSI bid that Peanut did. I had bigger expectations in that MSI because Huni and Faker needed to do a lot of heavy lifting in a tournament that should have been easy. Yes. Should have been very easy for them in my mind. So we remember even back then, you know, those days. I think just it's rough also for Peanut because I think something that the community doesn't mention enough is like sometimes it's like the marketplace. Sometimes there's just a lot of insane players in your role, and that's just unfortunate. In the context of junglers, there's just too many insane junglers right now that should be on top teams, and that could be like a potential challenge and a potential move in a direction that you can. We mentioned T1 and the Gumiushi topic before. It's like they tried to sub in Smash partially because Smash is good. They didn't have like great players in other positions that stood out, that allowed them to be, do some maneuvers within the roster. Sometimes that's just what you have access to. Like Team Liquid is another good example. When they subbed in APA, it's like they subbed in APA. Maybe they would have subbed out somebody else if they had a player that was ready for the other positions. Because in the end, at that point in time, Yeon was not performing either. Like Yeon and Harry, they were both playing pretty damn bad. And then in the end, Yeon's career just panned out beautifully. It's crazy how the butterfly effect can really, based on the market, sometimes you're lucky, sometimes there's a lot of people in your position and you don't get a job at all. That's the name of the game.
By the way, speaking of which, we did just have one of the first vaguely interesting LTA games, which was Team Liquid against 100 Thieves, and Team Liquid took care of it, mate. They did some work.
Let me just pull up the drafts real quick. I was like,
this was the one that had, sadly, in that game one, was this one where FBI did the really weird fucking calling Lucian for no, I don't know why he did it, but whatever. What's so weird about that for me as well is I consider FBI a very mechanically good player. Like normally one of the things I'm impressed with is how he like manages the range in the team fights. His mechanics always look clean. So I don't know I think he just had a brain fart there, mate. I don't know why the fuck he did that. Especially because remember, that is the one where you just press the fucking ultimate button again. Like, it's super complicated. Like, you can stop that. I don't know why he did that. It's so weird. I think he just brain farted, mate.
I don't know. The 100 Thieves team has been so puzzling for so long. Because I came into this matchup, I expected Team Liquid to win regardless of what their form was, just because of basically what the 100 Thieves have shown. It's just that in my mind, that is you have a team with like clear talent and like River and Quid and so forth.
That's some good players.
Like the change up for ADC was a massive one because they just didn't have an AD carry for the longest time. FBI coming in here was a big plus, but I just don't see any growth. Like they started off the first split where it was very fight heavy and just clicking on the same screen was all you needed, but there has been no progression at all in terms of their macro play. And now macro has been a lot more intense again in terms of how you play your lane swaps, how you set your lane assignments, which is a massive plus for Team Liquid because this is, of course, has been their biggest weapon. When they were at their best, this was their biggest weapon. But at this point in time, I need to look at this 100 Thieves roster, and maybe it feels bad because they're a guest team and they don't want to bolster the coaching staff or so forth. But I look at this as failed potential in my mind, because there were moments of time where it looked good, but the digression, like how Sniper is playing worse and worse as things proceed, and them not finding any point of progression is super disappointing to me. They ended on such a high note last year where they qualified to Worlds over C9, but I don't see, like, the 100 Thieves story is extra depressing because it's kind of like watching a TV series that has been cancelled. It's like, why the fuck am I watching this last season? There's no ending here. There's no ending. It's just over. They're just not going to be in the league anymore. So on my side, Team Liquid, leaning into some of the strengths. I was happy that APA played some different champions, because like whenever he takes a win on something like Anne, I think, okay, great. This is what we want to see more of APA, because I wish this region was more than just a two-team region. I think they did what they could in this one.
No, I also agree it is a bomber because, like, if you remember how the year began, bro, you had 4 teams that for real could all mix it up. It just depended what the bracket was. I remember thinking, like, this is actually the best fucking LCS has been in years, mate. Like, it's not just like 1.5 teams or is there any, like, you actually look. And if you think about it, right, if all these teams like 100 Thieves could have held up, mate, think how dope it then would have been that like Shopify Rebellion's getting somewhere. Then it would be like super good. Now, instead, it's the opposite. 100 Thieves is leaving anyway. Most of the players have actually fallen off a cliff. Remember, boys, it wasn't that long ago. Quid was the MVP of the league. The whole league. Now he is way worse than Quad. River himself isn't some like quasi-genius jungler everyone thinks he is. And I agree on the Sniper one. The Sniper one has done what I call, because famously Loco was the one I used to have to always argue with this. He's the one that shows people like Loco Doko don't understand the concept of even the concept evolution, right? So if you don't get it right, there's a mistake people make about evolution, which is they think it means things continually get better. It's like, no, that's not the case. In fact, there's a famous concept where people think that when things get worse from evolution, it's called no, it's just called evolution. The idea of evolution is just the randomized mutations cause effects. They can be good or bad. If they're bad, by the way, sometimes that continues on if it somehow like maintains part of the gene pool, or sometimes that makes you die out and then that thing either becomes extinct or it goes back to the previous sort of chain where it forked off and the other mutation takes over. So what people miss is this. People like Loco would always take someone. Sniper's a great example because remember, he came in the league as like a 17-year-old rookie player who had like, clearly some mechanics and he had like a kind of a cocky attitude. He was willing to play into the banter. So everyone's loving it. It's exactly checking all the boxes. NA player has all these things. When you say they're 17, you want to go brilliant, right? You could have like 10 years in the league. The mistake people like Loco always made is if you showed any promise in your first year, he would take it and like a fucking con man on the stock market, be like, look, if it's gone up this much, then if we extend it out, it's going to go up, 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 and up, and up. And in 10 years, you have $7 billion. And it's like, Loco, it doesn't work that way. Like, first of all, there's all the other players in the league trying to get good too as well, mate. Secondly, people also figure your style out and you have to, expand your game, get better thing. And also, maybe you're not the player who's but it's really hard to be excellent for 10 years. Like maybe you had one good year and then things that affect you. By the way, another thing about being a teenager is you have all sorts of shit swirling around your head. Suddenly you're a star. Am I actually a top player? Hey, wow, I beat this guy. Like, there's a million things going on. So sadly, it's not guaranteed that you keep getting better, 10% every year and then end up as like fucking peak blabber or some shit like that. Like sometimes you have a year where it's good and then it goes down a bit, because I agree. Sniper, last year I had reason to believe like this could be like a really good player. Now he just looks whatever. He's just average, mate. Like if you took the nameplate off, no one would be super hyped. And sadly, there've been a lot of players like that in NA history, especially a lot of top players, the Vipers of the world where they showed a little bit of Revenge. There's people who've had, moments where they looked good. They haven't been able to build on it suddenly. Because I agree, at this point in time, the only player I'll actually be sad about is the two players is probably River and FBI. I hope they continue on and go to other teams, etc. They can still be players in the league. The squad, though, like it shows how different their performance level is, mate. Because it's the exact same roster, but when I even look at the roster now, I just think, yeah, it's not very good, is it? But last year, I looked at this, like, there's not a bad roster, actually. Yeah, they should be able to be, mix it up and win a few BO3s here and there. Like, it's kind of a whatever team now. It's kind of a bit shit, isn't it?
For me, this just looks like a team. Like if these guys had maybe like the Team Liquid coaching staff or like the FlyQuest coaching staff, or if you want to go even extreme and say like a Tabe, I do think this team could be a lot better. Obviously, I don't know what's happening on the inside.
Also, by the way, shout out as well for how stupid it is. This is another one of those squads, like NA team. It's like a Canadian top laner, 2 Koreans and 2 Australians. Like, what are we even doing at this point in time? What even is this fucking league? What is the LTA? Someone explain it to me, please.
I had a thought actually, because there was this whole Reginald. He has had many takes, many different things he said in the past. But there's something he said at a moment in time that everyone got angry about, which I think at this point is probably like the move to do. And that is to put some leniency on the import rules. Because I think the LTA is reaching a point where League of Legends as a game is just not super popular. It's watched by some. And I know that, for example, like production-wise, they're doing everything they can to build hype. Like the trailers are good, and they're trying to, create ways of activations. I think the name change was ridiculous, but it's very clear that they are trying to do the most of what they have. But sadly, what they have currently is like, if you lose all your, it's like, imagine G2 and Fnatic just wasn't in the league anymore because they think it's not profitable. Yeah. Like, that would be very painful for the LEC. Imagine Casey and Koi didn't get excited. It's like, sure, we have some content creators over in LTA, but I don't know how involved they are, like in this guy's Toast and of course Ludwig as well. We have the same, but it's not actually the same, like Koi and fucking Casey, because they are bleeding league through and through, and they had years and years and years of trial and failure on actually managing to piece it together. So there's a lot of things not going on for you. So at this point, it's like, what are you going to do? I think the only way is to open and make the leniency for getting more imports, like whether it's 3 import slots or 4 even, or maybe even opening it up altogether. It's like, what is Team Liquid and FlyQuest in the grand scheme of things? It's like you are fortunate that a couple of your legendary players have green cards that gives you more, of a leeway. And they have, of course, massive leverage in their off seasons and in the LTA and use that to the max. Point,
there's literally 2 players right now where their green card carries the LTA. It's Impact for Team Liquid and Core JJ. Like, if those 2 players were in the league, mate, what would they even have in fucking LTA? Nothing.
And then there's Inspire with the green card as well. Whippo, it's like Whippo doesn't have that, but Inspired allows that, And in my mind, it's like if you want to really, really get back into the mix of things, is to give people that permission. It's like if that would be a place where more challenger players out of Korea came through, or from other regions, I think that is one way to make it internally more competitive and also more internally exciting, because most of the teams have plenty of imports, but I understand that in the aftermath, the effect of that, of course, on the LTA players that are on the come up and playing challenger, that route to pro is insanely difficult. But maybe it also invites people to do more in challenger, because it just seems like the leap from challenger to the main league is too far-fetched anyway, because of how stacked FlyQuest and a team like C9 is anyway, because C9 as well, they have Thanatos, Sven, they have of course Loki. It's like these are great players to have on your team, and I think that advantage is just too massive for the other teams to catch up on, because a player that was hyped is this SRTT guy. He got benched now for Photon. I think Photon is a solid player. I didn't think that he was insane, but I imagine Photon to just be better than SRTT, and that is one of the guys that just did everything he could to join the league, but still at the end of the all, just wasn't enough. So that regional take about removing the locks maybe is the move forward. What do you think about this angle?
I mean, I already think they're fucked, because if you think about it, we made fun of it at the beginning of the year when 100 Thieves was good. They're the guest team. They're not even a real owner team that's in the league with an invested interest in the future of the league and building it up and all. They're just a team basically playing look, we'll play for another year if we can do it for free, basically, lol, just have some. And as you can see, they're closing it down. It looks like they're going to just get rid of their division. There's two angles I think you have to do, because in my opinion, the current LTA approach just doesn't work. No one gives a fuck. It doesn't even really get you the South American viewership, because you don't do enough cross-regional play. Really, if anything, you wanted to do that, you had to gamble on making it just one region, didn't you? And have it all be in one place. So what I would do is this. There's two angles. One is an angle Riot doesn't even seem to have thought about, but I think it's an obvious one. So, last year, the rumor was that instead of it being Na'Vi that bought it was going to be Falcons, this org that's spending a bazillion, gajillion. If people don't know, by the way, if you're not someone who follows Counter-Strike, Falcons in the last 2 years in Counter-Strike has spent something like $20 million on players. This team is willing, as you've seen, by the way, buy the PSGs of the world, and all the money that comes from Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. These people are willing to spend not just the most, they're willing to just do that shout of movies, Yamato, put a zero at the end. Have I got your attention now? Some James Bond villain shit, which is holy fuck. But here's the thing: if your whole thing is I just want to spend loads of money to get attention and buy massive name players, right? They blocked them in theory joining LEC. Now I think part of that is because they're just the approach they're taking with the Saudis in LEC, mate, and Riot Games is what you call boil the frog slowly. You don't just do it like Neom and go, hey guys, the Saudis here, because then everyone will lose their mind. What you have to do is slowly raise the temperature 1 degree. Because if people say in real life, I've never tried this, I'm not a fucking serial killer in a video game. They say that if you actually put a frog in a pan of boiling water, you just gradually increase it. You don't go straight to boiling water. Obviously, if you threw it in boiling water, it jumps straight out. They say that if you gradually increase it, the frog essentially never properly notices, and it won't be until it's way too late that it realizes, I am literally cooked. I'm fucked at this point. Because he just thinks he's in a sauna going, a little bit too much, but you know what? I can handle it. It's all good. And then eventually he realizes he's just being boiled, isn't he? So in similar fashion, alhamdulillah, we must boil him, brother, or whatever that fucking meme is online. So basically, the actual move to me is obvious. Tell the Falcons/Saudis, do you want in? Join the LTA, mate, not the LEC. If you want to bring millions to the LTA and you want to do shit like sign some giant player and pay him $5 million, mate, we've got the league for you. Come over, because we need you. Right now, we not only need real esports orgs, by the way, and I'm sorry, at this point, they are a real esports org. People don't know they've not only got a very good CS team, they've got a very good team in Dota 2. In fact, they're the team that's going to win the EWC every year, because they're the only one that have teams in every game, as far as I can tell. So they would actually be a positive to join the LTA. And at this point in time, let's be real. In for a penny, in for a pound. You've all fucking bet the knee on the Saudi shit anyway. Why not benefit from it? The one benefit, mate, is, like I say in CS, they will spend fucking tons of money. And right now, I agree with you. A lot of old names are just in the league because they have a green card and they want to live in LA and they don't want Berlin weather, mate. Like, a lot of those guys, if they ever get shit at the game or they just decide, I want to go home, I'm done with my career, they're going to take their millions and they're going to fuck off. And this league will have nothing in 2 years from now. So I think you need actually anything that brings more players and more interest into the league. So if you can have another team that comes in like that and they spend like $10 million, brilliant, do it. Like, we can have the whole moral, ethical debate separately. In the game, it would be a plus, in my opinion. The other angle, if you wanted to do it, this is a harder sell, is I think that the lesson of the last split of LEC, which we'll talk about in a minute, is, bro, Thorin was right the whole time. Spoiler. No one fucking cares about leagues. Everyone wants to watch tournament play. That's why homestands, which were just league play, but just in an arena like a fucking playoff match at LAN, popped about 1,000 times harder than actual playoff matches in LEC that were in the studio. So the other angle you could also do is just say this. Maybe LPL and LCK can handle the league format. They seem to like it. It seems to make that if it's their structure of when you practice and when you play and you never stop playing. Maybe in the West, we just go to like an open circuit model. It doesn't have to be literally open. I just mean go to a circuit model and maybe instead we have 5 tournaments instead of 2 leagues. You know what I mean? Like, because again, there's another obvious angle. If you want to do a super team approach and take the LEC teams and add in the top 3 or 4 big names out of LTA, you could have a fucking banging set of tournaments, mate. Like, I'd certainly watch, Koi into FlyQuest, into Team Liquid, into Cloud9, into G2, and that'd be a fucking baller tournament. Imagine something like that every 3 weeks with a different bracket of teams. That would be really hype. Everyone thinks I'm bored of league. I think you're bored of league formats, boys. You're bored of going 9-10 weeks and then having a playoffs, and especially actually LTA playoff form has been pretty bad as well. They're not in BO5, so I feel like that would get a bit of hype back. Look, these are all just spitball ideas. Riot might never do any of these, but if we're coming up with ideas to save the league, it's got to be something drastic, I think, mate.
Yeah. No, that was like my follow-up. Exactly that. Right. Bring in like the big money, big money orgs. And if they have permission to sign whoever the fuck they want without, having something, tied down to the regionality of it all, it can just be, the big money league, And
give me a joke angle. I'm only half joking here, though. We're talking about how in the LPL Scout suffers. Mate, tell you what, have some dickhead Falcons come in and say, hey, Scout, do you want $10 million? You're in the LTA now, mate. He'll probably be the fucking MVP of the LTA. What are we talking about? Like, that would resurrect his career tomorrow, mate.
For sure. It's like we had that at a point in time. We did, but I think there was a lot of mistakes done in the way it was. Like, we had some legends coming over to the LCS, whether it was Sword Art or someone like Crown, and definitely there's some pitfalls in this type of methodology, but at the same time, it's like, where do you move from here? It's like the options are so damn limited, and I think this is where you need some, stimulus to make it work. Because I agree with that fear completely. It's like when Impact and MKoi are done, and Whippo also that's talking, like, I don't know where it came from, because I don't even know if it's true. We were talking about, like, as if Whippo is planning to retire or whatever. Like, let's say Inspired gets an offer he can't refuse out of Europe. It's like, well, what happens then? It just falls apart. It just falls apart completely. At least in Europe, you have so many good things going on for you in terms of the fan bases. It's like you're extremely lucky with how everything has worked out. New players coming in and exciting, like a lot of future prospects that are interesting, whether it's like Alvaro or Calist or Vladi. It's like you have new names popping up and becoming exciting. It's very, very limited in North America. Sure, you have a couple, Masu, Busio, so forth, but are they going to carry the league on their own? It's tough. It's tough. But obviously, we're looking ahead. We're looking very, very far ahead. But in this moment in time, I have to say, watching LTA North, it's boring as all hell. Like these first initial matchups.
Look up what next week's schedule is, mate. Bro, the best game is 100 Thieves FlyQuest. That's it. Aside from that, like, who the fuck's even watching this league?
Yeah,
it's pretty rough. It's rough, mate. Like, remember, think about what we talk about every episode, Yamato. When you watch the LPL and the LCK and that, like, stacked group they have, it's fucking murderers after murderers. It's killers. It's every week, of course I'm going to watch that game. You look at LTA and you're just like, how many weeks do I have to wait to watch a good game? What the fuck is this? Like, how many weeks am I going to have to wait for a TL versus FlyQuest, basically? Like, ages. This is rough, man. Mate. It's rough, isn't it?
I just saw the pick and play. Oh, it is rough. I'm watching the pick and play now, and I saw the matchups, and Yeah, I honestly think LCK and LPL, they solved it in the short term. You know, we're getting the matchups that we fucking want. I think it's a solution to a problem that is very sad to have, but everything is top heavy. I wish the LEC and the LTA were also willing to make this jump, because if we want to talk formats, like the LEC one, it's kind of wonky now. It's like we have two groups separated in a very strange way, and it's just one single round.
We'll go to that next. Don't worry, we'll go to LEC next.
Okay.
But first things first, Yamato. Speaking of bringing in the big money, taking care of it, keeping it in place, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts about that. Honestly, not so many anymore, because I don't need to think about it, because everything is in my Ridge wallet, baby. Ever since I got this, you know, it's always fun. You know, a big part of doing these podcasts is super fun. Is you just get like free stuff sent to your home. You know, you get to use it, you get good stuff. Ridge wallet, you know, it has really been a game changer for me. In terms of how compact it is, and in terms of how easy it is to use, it took some time for me to figure it out, because I'm a bit of a bozo. But now I'm so smooth with it in terms of how I pull out my cards. I don't want to reveal my bank codes.
There's a skill issue there, but once you get good at it, it's nice, isn't it?
Yeah. Then everything makes sense, because getting used to it is a part of course, you know, utilizing all the features, because everything needs to be tight knit. It needs to be held together. I also have the keychain, but for some reason, you know, my fiance always loses her keys, so she took mine, so I don't have it here. But I love that thing too. You know, in my mind,
you need to get the air tag to put on hers, then she'll be able to track where it is. I'm just a shameless shill at this point in time. It's all good. I'm good with it. I'm smooth with it. You know,
that's true. You know, the air tag, I'm still waiting for mine to arrive, but the fact that you can just track your keys and your cards, like I don't know if I could have if I could ask like a genie in a bottle, just tell me like how much time have I wasted looking for my keys and my wallet, and I'm sure it's going to be like, you have lost 36 days, which amounts to this amount of hours, and it would just really, really hurt my soul. So anything that you get, whenever you can see it real time affecting your life in a positive way, I think Ridge Wallet has been the one for me. It's like I had those bulky wallets. I'm one of those guys that kept every damn receipt possible, because maybe you might need it. You might return this cucumber in 3 weeks because it's moldy or some shit. Like I'm the receipt guy in the wallet where you can't find the money or whatever. And I kept that in my, you know, kind of like George Costanza in that episode, you know, where he tries to like put that thing together. It's like it got to the point where I got back issues because of my wallet. And this one I just keep in my front pocket. I like the weight to it. I like the feel to it. And it's been just a game changer for me. You can, of course, have it in different styles. I like this carbon one. There's many different colors. It can hold up to 12 cards, which is a massive one. This one is carbon fiber, I believe. That is some good shit. Maybe I can keep it close to my heart and just works like a bulletproof vest. You know, I just have it here. You know, maybe it does. You know, all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. Whenever somebody offers that, you just know they believe in that product. 100,000 5-star reviews, which is massive. And also on top of that, they have the RFID, you know, blocking technology. You know, in terms of how our parents were always afraid. Growing up, I remember using your cards. It was like sacred. You need to keep it in a safe. They were super, super afraid. They were super paranoid.
Oh, if I want to buy something online, they were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it was a no-go. Yeah. Getting premium and RuneScape, that was you needed to have, like, you need to be a lawyer, you know, pretend like you need to have a whole ass case prepared for it, because buying things online or using your card was just a no-go. And that paranoia, it didn't make sense for the longest time. But now my paranoia, I understand, because I've seen some tricksters where they like kind of scan your data and take it away from you. That would be a nightmare of mine, where you just have your card, they go on a shopping spree, take out money, and all of a sudden you need to deal with so much bureaucracy and problems, and that money might just be gone. This blocks any of that, you know. It's just, I don't know if anyone tried doing the touchless, the wireless pay. It just, the simplicity of it is almost scary. And this prevents any of those problems, which of course is super, super big. It's a super, super big deal. And we mentioned already the lifetime warranty. And of course, if you buy it, you have a 99-day risk-free trial, which is absolutely crazy, if you ask me. There's nothing to risk here. You can just buy it, test it out. You don't like it for some reason, which I can't think of one, considering all the 5-star reviews. Absolutely crazy. Just go for it. I think this is the one that you should do, and you would support the channel while doing so. So for a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at Ridge by using code, of course, SI. You just use it at checkout. Just head to rich.com and use code SI and you're all set. After your purchase, they will ask you, of course, where you got the information from. Please let them know that me and Thorin sent you. Summoning Insight sent you. Let them know and upgrade your life. That's what money is for. Make your life better with Ridge Wallet today. Boom.
By the way, for this LEC thing, as you say, if people don't know, every split the format is different. And for this summer one, it's not what you have in the LCK LPL, where it's, you know, a top team group and then a shit team group. They just have done this thing, which actually was tried, and you remember this, like fucking like 8 years ago or something, where they did just, LPL also did this, guys, where you just divide arbitrarily into 2 groups and then just have people play in groups, because the logic goes, even though I don't like this, like, but then you don't have like too much saturation, even though, by the way, in almost every other format, they do like cross-play in the LPL, etc. So I always thought that's confused, right? Do you even know how they determined this? Because I have to say, Yamato, when I look, it's not a massive complaint, but when I look at the 2 groups, I do feel like if you pause right now before the league begins, Group A looks stronger, mate. The one that has Carmine Corp, Koi, fucking Vitality was decent. They have the new Na'Vi squad. Like, that group looks slightly stronger than the other group. Like, how was this determined? Is there a logic as to how it was done?
So it was determined based of the placements in the previous, so in spring, and the ordering of the teams is basically 1 and 2 was G2 and Koi, of course, so they were placed in separate groups, and then 3rd place gets to pick which group they were in, and then 4th gets to choose, and then 5th gets to choose, 6th gets to choose.
Yamato, explain this to me, right? So 3rd place gets to choose whether they go into the group with 1st or 2nd. What's the price for being 1st? Why do you just get to choose to go either go in my group or the other one? Like, why are you didn't win, you came 3rd, but you get to choose which. That's so bizarre already to me, mate, because as you can see here, you can argue Carmine Corp don't actually believe Coin's better than G2. They've chosen their group. Logically, I should be choosing the other one. No, that's wild in itself, mate. What a fucking shit. Listen, by the way, I don't even hate this. If you might know this, when I did my tournament called Flashpoint in Counter-Strike, we copied this idea. I mean, we did it before them, is the joke. But we took this idea from Korean StarCraft of having a league where people pick what group they're in, because it makes for great, like, trash talk possibilities. Like, you know, a bit like that famous one in the LCK where KT Roaster did choose T1, because at the time, T1 actually wasn't as good as Hanwha and GenG. And then the logic was, we're going to actually pick you because now you're weak and we'll show off. That made for an amazing storyline. That was why it was so dope that T1 beat them and ruined their super team and all that jazz, you know. So I don't hate it, but I will say this is not a very Riot style move, because remember, Riot's thing is normally like, I would call it like almost like blank slate thinking, like, well, you can't imply any values or anyone's better. You have to just use a system that could be for anyone. This in some ways is technically, it's actually like a mild violation of competitive integrity that I choose where I go. I don't mind it though. I just think it's a bit weird. Like, why? Also, am I missing something? Why do these formats just come out of nowhere? This year especially, it feels like all the regions, except LPL, just have like a weird kink in the format that, like, as far as I can tell, nobody asked for or even wanted. Like, I don't believe any Koreans actually didn't want an LCK final. Similarly, what European person was like, can I please have the 2 teams split in a separate group? Who asked for that? What are we doing here? This is weird, mate. This is weird.
Oh, it's very strange. I think, you know, when it was like this, the 2 groups back when Mysterious Monkeys was an organization in the LEC, there was 2016. I remember it's like the groups were chosen by the top seeds. It's like they picked who they put in their team, and them being the top seed basically got an advantage. I remember being in that room. And if I remember correctly, because it was a long time ago, it was basically, it's like I pick a team and they pick a team, and then the team we picked picks the next team that comes in. And that's how it like kind of went. And I think it was kind of if I remember correctly, it was like a snake format. It was like you pick 1, then they pick 2, and then 2, and something like that. Yeah. Something to that, which to me made a little bit more sense. Because here, basically, what happened in the end was it's very clear that because Team Heretics were picking 6th, so GX just chose as 5th to go in with Casey and Koi, and then the follow up was. If I remember correctly, it's like the weird part was that Vitality chose to go to Group A, and then the final choosers just went to Group B, and then Na'Vi was also slotted in. Because I agree, I do think that Group B looks on paper worse. Like if there's 2 teams out of the bottom end like meaning not the top 4 that can maybe upset the teams at the top, it would be, in my mind, Vitality and Giants. I think that they have like the individual firepower to maybe make something happen that is unique. BDS is a little bit tougher to judge, in my opinion, because now with the roster changer, with Tada coming in and Roostar, I don't know how good they're going to be. But assuming that they are not going to beat the top 4, I think is a safe thing to do. I think there's a higher chance of Vitality.
And by the way, on paper, SK is the worst team in the league. Come on, for fuck's sake. Look at that roster. Yeah. What is that? That's an abomination, isn't it?
And then Rux did that thing. Like, Rux always goes on these Spanish talk shows and just like leaves a half rumor. I don't know. Where he just said, there's a certain Korean top laner that already wants to go home. And you can safely assume that that's the SK guy, because they got smoked in the finals against Vitality, right, of the NNO Cup. Like, they don't seem to be doing well. Yeah, that's a weird thing to drop, but I guess, you know, I'm just a messenger. Don't shoot me, you know? Something to add, I think what was interesting is that, as you mentioned yourself, the fact that KC believe that Koi is worse than G2. Considering Koi as a winner, I think it makes sense to come to that assessment. I think from outside, I think G2 looked better and better over time.
And the glow up at EWC, they looked decent there. Yeah, that was a decent run.
But having a team that is scrimming them internally and, of course, has a lot more data to work with to confirm that, I think is a big deal, definitely.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, by the way, look, if you watch past episodes of Something Insect, this won't be as shocking to you. Like, if this was my hot take show, that would even be my hot take, Yamato. I do think, actually, the G2 roster, the real problem is it just wasn't amazing from the beginning of the year. Like, there are still, look, the Labrov angle, I don't know that he can fix. I feel like he has, unfortunately, been a peanut or bin who's been exposed by failures. He just hasn't been able to adapt, especially not in a team where he actually sometimes is important. But I do think, actually, at all these tournaments I've now seen Skewmon play, bro, even when he loses, he pulls out one game that'll be like really good against the top player. So I think something like that, by the time he gets to Worlds, he could be really good. Like, I think G2 can still get their shit together. I don't think he'll be number 1, but you could be a number 2 or number 3 that's like good though. The difference is you were number 2 going into MSI, but it was like BLG who gives a fuck at that point in time. You can actually, I think you can still get better if you're G2. You can still become a better team. I'm not writing off.
I did my power ranking and I put all the top 4 on the same one, or just A tier. But in my mind, if I just like assess what are the chances here of who is going to win Summer, in my mind, like where I landed, if I just looked at all the issues of the teams and what's going on with them, I landed at G2 having the highest chance to win Summer. I think the benefit, like we already talked about this at great length, the benefit of going to the internationals and actually having time to digest it and to actually actually just get better out of it, I think is such a big advantage. And I think that Koi kind of reached their ceiling in terms of gameplay in spring, and I think it's going to be very tough to recreate that. And I think KC, even though individually they have the talent to win out the league and probably, you know, on the potential just ceiling of their play, I think that it is the highest. I still have to think about the issues that they faced in Spring Split in terms of how they ended, and I think that also potentially carries over. But I think everything is in the air. Fnatic, we don't know how they're going to land with Poby as well. I do think, though, the G2 might have the highest chance to win Summer isn't too crazy with everything that we know so far, especially over the last 2 months. It's like, what did the other teams do? BDS, Poby, all these guys, they had new players, but for a solid month, all of these players were off. They had time off. They were not playing. They were not scrimming. They were trying to figure out visas and roster changes, and they started scrimming rather recently, maybe like 2 weeks ago. And I think having that time at an international and then having time to rest is just such a big edge, especially because this format will go fast. You have 4 best of 3s that determine so much for you. Because if you don't make top 2, you are already in trouble. Making top 2 in your group is such a massive advantage because you get the Guardian Angel. The other teams don't get the Guardian Angel. They have to play, and your life is on the line from the get-go in BO5s. You win 1 best of 5 after being top 2, and you qualify to Worlds already. You're top 3. So the difference here of maybe what could be 1 off day against a Giants for, let's say, Koi or KC, all of a sudden you start in the lower bracket, and the Worlds bid will get very freaky very fast.
Let's do the Poby revisit. We did the initial one like weeks and weeks ago during MSI when it was initially announced. But I want to do like the pros and the cons here. If we start, here's what's funny. I actually think there are more pros than people think. But start with the negative, right? Here's the one thing I want to make clear at the outset, right? We had this discussion earlier about Gumayushi and Thorin and how people treat players in a T1, etc. Right? I've already seen this story happen before, Yamato, when a guy called Noah, who was a Korean player, came to play in Fnatic. And by the way, at least when he came, they also had eventually a Korean support in Jun. At least he had the other Korean with him. Poby has no other Koreans. By the way, at least Noah had played in an ERL or Turkish league or something like that, right? Like, this guy doesn't even have experience outside of Korea. So one of my problems is, my immediate concern for Poby is, this is a guy who didn't handle the pressure well when he was put in the T1 with all the enormous expectations. Well, here's the thing. You might think because LEC is nowhere near LCK, well, no biggie, it's going to be fine. No, bro, you're joining Fnatic. I'm sorry. Just like Noah, people aren't going to go, oh, you're doing a good job, or, give him time. You don't get time in Fnatic. When you're in Fnatic, if you don't win the split, you have failed. And literally, remember, they don't look as bad now, mate, because we've just got even worse fans now. But Fnatic fans were the original TSM fans of Europe, annoying fucks that every time they lose, they want the same player cut that a month ago they were saying was the best in their role. They've done it so many times to Razork. They've done it so many times to Humanoid. If Dardo was still here, he'd be getting every fucking split. They bang on Oscarin in when he has a bad season. Everyone gets it in Fnatic. It's a fan base that literally demands that you win. So the problem if you're Poby is, if there are any issues, if you're looking nervous, if you're homesick. By the way, you're coming in for your first split as the summer split. Like Yamato says, you're not going to get that many matches. You basically have to hit the ground running, or I think the mental condition of the player could dissolve really quick, mate. I'm actually a little bit concerned for him in that sense. Like I say, he doesn't have Koreans with him in the team. He doesn't really have any support network. He's being thrown into the fire, and he just has to make it work from day one, as far as I can tell.
Oh, we have so many examples of Korean imports that start very slow. We have, for example, in C9, in the beginning, Loki was looking really, really rough. You had other similar players I remember, for example, Vikla came through after being hyped over in Korean solo queue ladder, and then he just looked out of sorts and he just couldn't find himself. It's a very, very big challenge. I've already began to do my lawyer defense for Poby. I've said this, he's coming into a situation that is insanely tough. He needs to make it work in a short amount of time, and everything is super foreign to him. After moving from the most premier organization in T1, it's I've been at the T1 offices. It's you have the amenities that you get and the care that you get is fantastic. That's a big shift up in itself. So if Poby manages to make it work, he deserves a lot of praise. But it's a very, very tough, a very tough situation to just be in as a player. He took the shot. It was funny to read. It's when he did in the video, there was a translator, he was next to Grabs. He just said, it's when I heard Fnatic made the call, I just knew that I had to, then I considered it. And I was like, damn, the news about the Fnatic organization has not traveled, has not traveled overseas. It's oh, Fnatic are great in Valorant. Look, they're in the finals and shit. It's bro, I want to join Fnatic. As the news hasn't traveled. I do think from Grabs' position.
Yeah, the joke is Poby gets it. He's so where's Forrester? Get right. Where my boys at?
As a follow-up, on Grabs, I think he is happy that he actually can position himself that, at least if they're carrying on for the next year, he has set the standard for players wanting to be there. Because for the longest time, Fnatic has just been the epitome of stagnation. They've kept going on because they made Worlds, they made these things, and they were we're okay with it. When in reality, maybe the careers of Razork and Humanoid would have looked entirely different if they made the decision to separate a lot earlier. Maybe Humanoid will still be playing. Maybe Humanoid would have replaced Frescawi on Mad Lions, and they would have maybe Jackies on Fnatic, and maybe Europe would have been stronger as a whole because of it. Maybe there were some decisions along the way they could have made to maintain that credibility and maintain the idea that they are trying to actually actively improve real time. But now they're doing this decision in the middle of the year. in my mind, if they manage to get to Worlds, fair play. You got it done. But I think this is like the year where Grabs is setting a standard for what he wants out of his players, and he's building his own Fnatic. That's how I view it. That coming into the next year, if he continues, that he gets to actually choose players that want to be there, and he gets to actually enact his philosophy. Because I think he just inherited something that, in the sense of what the dynamic was just poisoned because it's stuck around for that long, for way too long. And I think that, to me, from a coach's perspective, I'm happy that Grabs gets to make that point. Because in that same video where they presented Poby, he also made that remark that he's just happy that he has players that want to be here. And I think that he made it very, very clear that that's a big deal to him. And it is to anyone, really. Like, if you have a player that doesn't care, doesn't have motivation, you can't do anything with that. It's just impossible.
I mean, I can just tell you, based on the things I heard, that was the issue. If people saw, famously, actually coming into the playoffs of that split, Fnatic players were playing the game. People like were playing, but he was having a very good regular split. But I just heard that, his head wasn't in it, mate. He didn't really give a fuck about playing the game anymore. And unfortunately, I think that's what Grabs is not so subtly leaning towards there. He's sort of saying there's a reason why Humanoid isn't in the roster. He doesn't give a fuck anymore. And that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to have players where, look, the last thing I need to do if I'm the coach is convince you to want to play and win the game and be really good at it. That's what you're supposed to deliver, that part. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to make an argument in the case of Poby, that's one thing Korean players have zero issue with, mate, because here's the thing. You never make it to an org like T1 if you don't give a fuck about the game. You won't make it if you're burned out from years ago. And by the way, the idea, this would be alien to a Korean, that you're just playing because you have a giant contract. That's not even in their brain, mate. That's not who they are. In fact, I'll tell you right now, a Korean player would never do what Humanoid did unless he was maybe in the LPL, because they would also feel a level of cultural guilt from getting paid a very big salary and then not being good at the game. You know this. You know this from being in Korea, Yamato. They're not trolling when they do those interviews, guys. You know when the best teams in the world will lose an amazing game, and you think hey, you played fucking great. Okay, you didn't win today, and they'll be I want to apologize to the fans. I will play better next time. I will practice even harder. You think come on, you're overselling it, mate. No, they believe that shit though. That's the mentality they're in every day. They really are on some you're only as good as your last game shit. Like the joke would be, we talked about earlier in this episode, I don't panic if I'm GenG in anyone's legend. I'll bet those players, even though they're really tired and burned out, went and grinded even more after those losses, bro. We're going to get back to the top. That's one thing I admire about Koreans and Asians, actually. Again, I wouldn't ever make my child play that way. But I'll tell you what, if you're willing to go that Spartan route and just put yourself nose to the grindstone, then I'll watch. It's like UFC. I wouldn't let my kid fight, mate. But if two people want to knock the fuck out of each other, give me some popcorn and a soda, I'll be sitting back watching it, So I do. Here, are you ready? I'll give you some copium, though. Which is, this will sound weird because, spoiler, I don't think Poby actually will be better than Humanoid. I'm not going on some he's the next Loki and he's going to secretly, or Quad, and he's going to secretly be sick and be the MVP. No. I actually think the reason why it's not impossible Fnatic can improve from having Poby is assuming he doesn't just get gapped. Assuming he just does what he should be able to do, which is turn up, have hands, and crucially, this is the key detail, Yamato. I think it's what it does to the overall style of Fnatic that could actually be the improvement, which is one thing I'm going to go ahead and assume immediately. I think it's a fair assumption, is there's no universe Poby's going to be the shot caller or even the guy calling anything out. He's just going to be a guy playing a Zay, and they're going to tell him what to do. And you know what, Yamato? In this particular lineup of players, that could be a plus. Because I think before this, you had one guy whose job was to just shut the fuck up and play, and that was Oscarinen. Every other player on some level either had direct agency in the game or was a key person who made. You think about it, right? Razork, his style of play is clearly incredibly self-directed. Humanoid didn't look like he ever had the same style of play, but this is someone who's coached him. He's a guy who has very strong opinions about how it should be played. He certainly plays himself, whether he communicates or not, what he thinks is the right play. Upset, by the way, sometimes negatively, has his own perception of what the game is and when the ADC should be involved and when he shouldn't be. And then finally, Mickey X is a guy who's trying to put out fires and join in. So you start 4 people who, in theory, if you pick the wrong moment in the game, could all be pulling in different directions. So I think, first of all, remove one voice from that mix and the other 3 become more cogent and coherent. Secondly, you remove the mid lane voice, mate, And now we don't have any of that shit of like, it's humanoid. Right? No, now it's Razor can fucking make you X-mate. You two get on the same page. You figure out what you're going to do. And so I actually think there's a world where, even though he might be a worse mid laner than humanoid, maybe actually less is more in this case, maybe by removing some of the issues in that sense. Because I often say the same thing in Counter-Strike Yamato. I think there's a type of player in Counter-Strike, they're often the support player, who, because they're not a voice, that actually helps your shot calling because they're not interrupting, they're not short circuiting, they don't just pop in even with an idea, like an idea that counters what you're saying. So what do you think? Look, some of this is copium. We have to actually see this work before any of the shit I did a great legal defense as to why you should do this move. It might never be true, but I don't think, basically, it's not as doomed as it might initially seem. Like, I do think, if anything, weren't we all looking at Fnatic and going, it should be impossible with this many players to not eventually make the finals and win. Like, maybe actually, like, let's be real, they've still got 3 fucking super duper elite players. They've still got 3 really heavy bangers. So, yeah, I think this can work.
No, I think the main thing for me is that this team needs to model itself by the 2021 summer run with Whippo Hilly upset. Like,
okay.
It was all about just making sure that we get a head through bot. You get the head through bot lane. You drive the game through jungle support at all times. And I think if they manage to piece that together, I think that would be like perfect. Because in terms of play, Poby reminds me a lot of a Niski. Like, Niski at his best, I thought always the guy who just was available, was there when necessary. And there is a skill set to that. It's like, I watched through so many Poby games where I'm like, okay, he's basing, he's on time for the objectives, he has good conditions, he doesn't die on side, he doesn't do anything mechanically crazy, but sometimes that's all you need. It's like, looking at like why we are so excited about the GenG is the fact that they managed to go in and out of so many different playstyles, which is something that no team does. Like, if you look at any historic team, there's role players there that do certain things and they're only good at that and they stick to it. And then there is a certain playstyle you can define them by. GenG, they can play carry through bot, carry through there. They can go in and out of these roles so beautifully. Anyone's legend to some degree too, right? In terms of how they play jungle and support. But that's so extremely hard. No team should strive to do that. Like, if you manage to do that, you're one of the best teams in the world then. So I think specializing in something, I think will go so far. Because Humanoid is definitely the type of player that, you know, he has the right idea, but will only communicate it once. If you don't get it, he's going to give up on you in the game. And that's something that requires very specific people to deal with that. Because some people...
Shall I give you an analogy? I've got a funny story for you here.
Go for it.
Right. Way back in the day, you'll remember this, but sadly fans won't, because actually all these players later continued to do media and their English got way better. The real early days of when, not even Gambit, when they were Moscow 5 Yamato, when Moscow 5 was the best team, what made them super sick was they had crazy mystique around them. Most of them barely spoke English. They didn't do interviews at the time. I was actually one of the first people to do, translated interviews and stuff. And what would happen is you would see them do stuff. And I've always told this story because it's happened on Summoning Insight many times. Monty would watch their games and not know much about them as people, and he'd be coming up with all these amazing theory crafts as to what they were doing. Like, oh, see, Darian's actually like holding his TP there so that Edward can push up and get brush control. And then he didn't know that I knew, like, Edward, for example, and could talk to him, and that I knew that it's worse than that, Monty. Like, they don't even know why they're doing some of the shit they're doing. They're just doing rando shit. But it's just that because they're like really dope, like they had crazy chemistry, didn't they, as players? Like, because they have this bizarre chemistry, like in the game, not even out of the game. They used to actually, some of them like hate each other. They had all cliques. But in the game, they had this miracle, amazing chemistry, much like a Faker T1, actually, where they're like more than the sum of their parts. And basically, we found out all these like mad stories about what was going on in the teams. And it was only years later when they started to, like, Edward got way better English, Diamond Prox got way better English. They'd all played for more. Then it like, the stories all came out. So one of the maddest ones is, oh, fuck, where was I going with this? Oh, that's it. I know where this is. So one of the weirdest ones ever was their bot lane they had, Genja and Edward, formerly Gosu Pepper. If people don't know, they actually might be one of the best examples ever of that concept of creative tension, where I can tell you, these guys did not get along. They had completely the opposite view of League of Legends. Like, Edward, if you don't know, guys, was the guy who thought, like, you should play like how you do in modern day League. You should zone the enemy off all the time. You should aggressively, if there's any kill pressure, it's like the fucking best in the West spot. You go for the kill. You fucking flash in, you exhaust him, you want the ADC to follow up. Genja's mentality, for real, was more like some reckless shit of like, no, we just play safe in lane. You get your items, you get to the team fight, then you start doing something as ADC. So because they had this totally opposite mentality, right? I can tell you a story that Edward once told me that's fucking hilarious. Or maybe it was like one of the other supports that played with Genji. Basically, they told me a story where they said what Genji would do. This is why I'm thinking of it when he said this humanoid story. They said he'd tell you what you should do, right, in the game. But if you don't do it immediately, just exactly as he says, he would just like teach you by fucking you up in the game. Like when you're his support, he would just let you go and like face check a brush after he told you not to do that. And if you just go face check it, then he'll just like back off as like the other two just gangbang the fuck out you in the brush. And you're like, what the fuck? And his whole shit was sort of like, look, you're either going to learn from listening to me or you're just going to learn the hard way. Like, bro, Humanoid does a bit of that too. It's why, if you notice, I carefully said that, you Mark, because I've talked to a lot of his former teammates. I didn't say he doesn't follow the plan. I'll say it's more like he has a plan and he's going to follow his plan. It's just that if you didn't really get what the plan is, then it's going to look like there's no plan, because he's going to be doing some other shit. Like he's going to be walking around the back of the dragon pit doing something. And you're going to be like, what the fuck's going on here? That's just it. This guy's kind of a bit hard. He's like a bit of a harsh parent in that sense, right?
Yeah, to some degree. It's like it's a bit harsher on the humanoid side, because it's like he will still play and try, but he will do it believing, oh, my teammate's never going to be able to do that, so I'm going to adjust myself to that rather than extending the hand, you know? I don't even remember why I brought up that point anymore, but I do think I'm with you on the point about Poby being just simple and just being available. I think that's a big plus. It's like a big test here for Razork, of course. It's like I do think that in terms of talent, he definitely has it, but this is like one of those moments in time where you need to fucking step up. You need to step up and find consistency, because in the regular split, you're racking up MVPs, you're doing crazy shit. Yeah. But at this point in time, Ivan, you are so deep into your career. There are certain mistakes that can't go on for that long. You need to have, the ability to take the opportunities that you get, because that G2 series was a fucking opportunity to take. These opportunities don't come around often. They don't come around often. And then maybe next year the teams are going to be even better, and everything around you is going to be even faster and sharper. These are the chances you need to take, because now the top four, everything is up in the open. And if you manage to execute it here with Poby, it can define your whole career. Are you going to be, are you going to be on the wayside of the Fnatic era now with Humanoid? And are you just going to be, something that Fnatic fans yearn to be forgotten because of all these second places, and you're not going to be there when Fnatic finally win something? Or are you going to take this chance? Because if this doesn't work out, who's next in line? Who's next in line?
And like I say, as long as Poby can play to a certain minimum level, bro, you've got enough with the rest of the players. You've still got, in theory, the best bot lane in the LEC. You've got Razork. You've got some fucking good players, mate. Like, there's that. First of all, absolutely, Fnatic should be expecting to make it to Worlds. And then secondly, you should even still think there's an outside chance if we get our shit together in the split. Maybe we can even win this motherfucker. I don't think it's impossible.
Agreed. This is the chance for it. Like, Oscarinin, still question mark, but I'm with you. Bot lane, super fucking good. I think the meta is also really good for the bot lane now as well. It's like we saw all of this mean shit Gumayushi does recently. It's like Aphelios for upset, the Lucian. Like these are classics.
Give me that T1 bot lane. I want to see an Aphelios Thresh game. That would be fucking fire, mate. I'd love to see that from these two players, of course.
These are the guys that need to play it. These are the guys that need to pull it up. They need to play it. Like this is also, it's like we mentioned Razork, but it's also like upset. This is also a critical fucking split for him. We can see in the game, we can see the skill that Upset clearly has. He's been one of the best 80s for a very long time. But the trophy case argument and what you do, like at some point, we can't defend only with gameplay. You need to be winning. You need to be winning. And now you with Mickey, you play with Hilly. Like, this is the one, man. This is the one. You need to take over.
Yeah. Listen, he knows he blew it last split. He was only a hair from beating G2. But if you don't make it to Worlds and don't do something this time, mate, you'll just be the most valuable punk in the LEC. Whatever. That was wordplay. Listen, there's other fucking matches. I have to make some shit up, don't I? It's all I'm actually at this point. If we talk about the other big names, by the way, I'll tell you the team I actually think have a lot to prove. And it is the reigning champions. Bro, They had like one game in each tournament. There was like one game in MSI, like one game in fucking EWC, where Koi gave me anything I hoped for. I really hoped they could take what they did in that playoff globe and, you know, have this chance to gap people from jungle. When I actually watch those international tournaments, look, they're not really the old Mad Lions that used to just shit the bed, but they were disappointing though. Like, I don't feel like they ever really brought the force I hoped they would, mate. You know what I mean? Like, they had times where they had a chance to do something, but they never got it over the line. They never really threatened the other teams for me. So I think if you consider that they already got it together in LEC right in the playoffs, like, they need to actually show me they are truly potentially the best team in this region, because otherwise it's easy for me to go, look, you had a great run in the playoffs, but I'm going to put you back in your box of like third or fourth, and you have to prove to me again. Like, it's not like past splits. Like, I did think Karmine coming into spring, deserved to be, because you should be number one after that. Yeah, absolutely. You had the first stand run. This one, if you're Koi, you have a lot to prove. I think you have a lot to prove.
Agreed, yeah. I think the main standout on during these internationals is Elioya. I had higher expectations of him.
Absolutely.
I thought that the Elioya Alvaro engine would be able to do more damage, especially in the early games, and I didn't really feel Elioya's presence at all. I think that's like the big thing. The big contrast is just that how important Elioya was in the playoff run, and then now at the internationals. It's like, it's not even about the results per se, it's just how they played. And how they didn't even get into the games, because I thought this was a big selling point for me in terms of Koi, is just how they start out the early games and how they actually just incorporate the pieces. I thought Giorgio Pion had some good performances, good for him. Alvaro had like some few moments, but Koi definitely looked worse coming out of the internationals. And it's not because obviously we expect them to lose against some of these teams that they lose against, but it's more about like carrying that same level of confidence to take opportunities against teams that are better on you on paper. They've done this regionally, but they just never have done it internationally. And the results of Elioya are beginning to haunt them a little bit post 2021, because you can defend it, but same way as Upset. You know, you need to give me something to work with. You know, give me something to work with. I think coming into summer, I don't think they are a favorite. I think they're up there for sure. But it's just how the league is right now. We have the top four, bunch of question marks, and things are going to go fast. And I think that Koi, KC, Fnatic, and G2, if they don't make top two in the group, something crazy must have happened. They should be the top four. But the fact that there's only 3 world spots is going to make this insanely crazy, because whichever team out of these 4 that doesn't make it to Worlds has fucked up. Period. Like, they have done something that, you know, it would be a big tragedy, because G2 Fnatic, you expect them to go, but Koi and KC, they've won splits. We are in a year where G2 and Fnatic didn't win a split, so any team that doesn't make it are going to, you know, feel the hurt and feel the pain.
Also, here's why you know that Elioya didn't live up to the billing. Because, bro, the Thorin of MKoi is fucking Giorgio. If he does badly, they'll let you know, mate. Giorgio wasn't even bad internationally. He actually had some pretty good games against people like the way, like fucking Knight, like actual banger players. And he actually was fine. He actually even had some games that looked good in laning phase. Like, I agree. The person who had the expectations was Elioya, because in this team, we're giving him all the props because he's the big name. He's playing with some people who are still basically borderline rookies anyway. He's playing with a guy who's only just come to Europe and had all these nerve issues. Actually, I think Giorgio was one of the better players for their team. And in general, it was Elioya who had the opportunity to do something. He didn't. I'm with you. And then the other team, obviously, here's what's funny. It just shows you how weird the game is and how power rankings exist, etc. Because Karmine hasn't done anything. All they've done is sit on their bombs like the rest of us watching and playing scrims behind the scenes. But the joke is, just by virtue of the fact that G2, except for a bit of a run at EWC, didn't really make good on what they did in the playoffs, making the finals, and the fact that MKoi looked a bit shit, if anything, I find myself hyped for Karmine again. Like, I actually think if you're Karmine, if I look at all factors for the top 4, bro, on paper, you should win this split. Like, I think you actually do still have the best roster now. By the way, now that Fnatic's sent human, I think you've got the best roster on paper. Like, this should be your chance to win the split and go, like, triumphantly to Worlds, mate. Because I was thinking that the whole time during my MSI. When I watched, like, the whack-ass G2 performances, I was just thinking, bro, imagine how much sexier this would be if this was Karmine playing FlyQuest. If this was Karmine against BLG or whatever. You know, like, that's the match I want to see.
No, definitely. KC, I think they should have the highest potential ceiling. It's like the potential we've seen of each individual player, and and how well Kana plays. It's like Tagamas, of course, is arguable. I think that's like the main position where I think Alvaro, Miki are like better standout players. And, the big problem for KC, I think, was they were extremely inconsistent. They lost like the recipe trying to pursue more because it was very clear that they, stuck to certain champions for everyone in the mix. But then we saw like the Silas still come through in the melees. But a big teeter for me is just like individually, the individual expression of how they played their macro wasn't there. So they had nothing to like fall back on, like in terms of like the team fights that they always fall back on, in terms of the execution of someone like Kalist. It was always there, even in the game 5 against CFO. They just like clutched it out in the fights. When you have like the inaccuracies from like Vladi and Kalist, that same playstyle just didn't work. It's like Kalist, this was one of those splits where you look at the hype that Kalist brought and how everyone like overhyped and how great he's going to be. This is the type of split that is like still very, very acceptable because form fluctuates, but the expectation was that he's going to blow everyone out of the water like over and over again. Like this was a weaker split. I think you could argue, sure he had crazy highlight reels occasion, like on the Ezreal and the mid play and so forth, but the amount of mistakes he did dying on mid waves and just finding himself lost in some team fights, I think you could make the argument there was a lot of ADs around him that just performed better in the split. But if Vladi and Kalist can perform the same way as they did in Winter, which obviously they have in them, I think KC is insanely, insanely dangerous. But if I look a little bit deeper, the Targamas, Yike, how they work together as players seems to be a little bit inconsistent. And I think if I look at these two players in the past, Yike and G2, when G2 was underperforming, it was also like Yike was very disconnected from what was going on. Targamas the same way. If he didn't have a jungler that was very demanding, he also wasn't the same player. So figuring out how they play together again is going to be the biggest challenge in my mind, because they managed to do it in Winter, but in KC, like in the spring split, they were just kind of like in a weird way, kind of like a Billy almost, where I didn't really believe the macro was there, but they could just kind of win the fights, and you could kind of believe in them because mechanically they were good, but it just needs to be more than that, a lot more than that.
All right, here's the thing. There will be later this week a Best Damn League show where we will preview, me and Peter Dunn, the LEC split. We'll go through all the teams, and if you know, we use that format I took from the CS show Snake and Banter, where each person has like a good, bad, and an ugly point, and it's a way to like preview. So we'll do loads more in-depth stuff on LEC. But here's one thing I would like to say first, Yamato, is one of the interesting things about Fearless is obviously you get more variety, more champion picks, right? Well, that's a bit like how with Factor, you get more variety, more meals, because you can choose from a wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium seafood choices like salmon and shrimp at no extra cost. Now, in the game League of Legends, Yamato, even though support used to be considered, the carried role that did nothing, it was just a ward bot, in the modern day, they have all the damage, they have all those dynamic picks. Nowadays, support's everything. In fact, as Labrov sadly shows by his absence, support is about setting up the map. It's about controlling those objectives, setting goals, knowing what you need to do to get to that goal, the steps you need to take, and then getting there and successfully executing. Well, support your wellness goals. Enjoy even more GLP-1 friendly meals and new Mediterranean diet options packed with protein and good for you fats. Yeah, speaking of Mediterranean people on a bit of a diet, yeah. Some of them are pretty fucking hungry over there. But enough about that, Labrov. Greece is from the Mediterranean, it's all there. Now, obviously, you want in League to really expand out your palette. Watch different regions, don't you? You want to know, you want that, the vibe of the LCK, that calm, calculated approach to the game. That after you, sir, on guard. The answer that goes correctly to it. But then again, you've got that craziness of the LPL with all those spices flowing out everywhere. Well, you know what? Savor global flavors. For the first time, try Asian-inspired meals, not they're inspired from FlyQuest, Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors influenced by China, Thailand, and more. You know what? core streamers. The thing about them is you want to know, when I watch a core stream, I'm not just watching for entertainment, which in a taste component would just be like, the raw flavour. We're not bloody Americans where we're just like, put MSG and salt on it, delicious food. Like some fat fucking mess waiting for mom to bring tendies down. No, with core streamers, what I care about is, as well as entertaining me, I want to get enough of the good stuff. I want those right ingredients. I want the right vitamin breakdown. I don't just want Cadro screaming out rats. I want some analysis too of the game and what he's doing and what the macro is. Also, well, you know what? For more choices to get better nutrition, that's why 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. Feel the difference no matter your routine. So eat smart at factormeals.com/LFN50 off. Then use code LFN50 off to get, you guessed it, 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code LFN50 off at factormeals.com for 50% off plus free shipping. Get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Thank you to Factor, and thank you to League of Legends for providing all those puns that I then made sound like I was just making comments. But then I did that weird thing with my voice where I go, but then this, here's something from the copy. And then also this, Yamato, and then back into the copy. And then at the end, I've made you have a delicious ad with all sorts of information and nutrition components. But you know what? It was entertaining in the end, wasn't it? I make my case for myself or something. I don't fucking know. Whatever. I fucked up the end. It's all good. Luckily, you won't fuck up the end with your delicious Factor meals. There you go, whatever. It's all good. It's all good. Should we do some viewer questions?
Let's do it.
Yes, right. We'll be back after a quick break to do some viewer questions. I'll let you know where you submit those after said break. Goodbye. Right, we are back for the last section of the show, which is, of course, viewer questions. And the way this works is simple. You subscribe to Last V Nation Discord, then there are a bunch of channels. One of them has SI questions. There's also, you can submit hot takes for the League of Legends hot take point made, for the CS one, for the Four Horsemen, which is still a show that's ongoing. If you don't know, by the way, look up the most recent episode of the Four Horsemen. Richard Lewis, let's just say his hair maybe looks a little bit different than you're expecting it to look. I won't say what he's done, Yamato, but you can imagine, think about people maybe in Hollywood and how they make up for a lack. Think about Elon Musk. Have you ever seen a really old picture of Elon Musk? Well, let's just say maybe Richard Lewis. Maybe he knows what he's doing. So anyway.
He went to Turkey or
I don't know where he went, but he certainly did do something. Let's just say that. Yes, he upgraded in some ways. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will now take some of the questions. Remember, if you don't want me to read your name out, no one apparently cares about this, but I'll say it every time. Just tell us and I'll take your name off if that's something that bothers you. Right, here's a good one. It's a classic one, but let's ask it. Need for Speedo says, isn't it strange that Flash, as in the summoner spell, is basically a mandatory summoner spell, yet it is treated like any other summoner spell in the game? You could say it is unbalanced, yet Riot seems to silently accept it as part of the meta for many years. What do you think?
It is weird because like there's certain design elements in the game that just have been away for so long that the things that were easy to move have just been balanced around them, because the game would just fall apart. I completely agree with the notion that Flash, by virtue of being a necessity, is insanely broken, because if you don't play with it, you're going to be losing. But everything has been balanced around it. It's like it's the foundation that the game is standing on. It's like you would have to remake the game completely, because it would just change how jungle functions. It would change how certain champions function. It's like not being able to flash Orianna ult or with a Javan ult or anything in terms of value. It would just break the game completely. I'm trying to remember like examples in games where something similar has happened. I'm trying to think back. There's nothing really that stands out that is similar, but I imagine this is something that occurs. Is there anything in CS that is like inherently like imbalanced, that has just been around for so long that it's just something that can't be changed? Like
I mean, the problem in CS, the problem is though in CS, obviously there's no like champion selection or banning system, is there? So the issue is like there are things that are OP in Counter-Strike. I think to this day the most OP weapon ever is the AK-47. It doesn't make sense how good it is because it's so cheap. Like it's almost like half an AWP. Like it's ridiculous. It's mega. So, but the point is, the difference is in our game, everyone can just abuse that. Like it's why things that are OP don't really matter in Counter-Strike, because essentially, unless it's more like randomized, like when the Tech 9 was a bit OP or whatever, it was a bit randy. Yeah, that's bad because you can get kills that are not out of skill. But as long as it's something where it's like, if you're really good, it's just really good, then usually it works. Put it this way, the closest I could maybe come was if you go back to like 2019, that T-side weapon, the Krieg, which is that like it's like an AK, but it has like a scope on it, the one you can zoom in on, looks a bit like COD basically. That was OP at one point in time, to the extent that like even the best AK players had to swap to it. So that's a little bit like that, but nothing's as extreme as Flash, because essentially he's right, except barring like rare champion, I don't know, Hecarim or something. Almost every champion does have to have Flash. They just do. He's right, isn't he?
Yep.
I also do think here's the problem. It doesn't matter because luckily everyone just does pick Flash, but I do think it shows a flaw with the design of League. Because if people don't know, the equivalent to Flash in Dota is the Blink Dagger. You don't have to have that. Not every character buys it all the time. There is more of like a thing of like you pick different things based on the hero. The problem in League, I think, has always become, for me, even though they have loads of champions, just like you saw with standard draft format, League tends to be about finding what's broken and just abusing it. That's what the game's almost about as a pro. So if certain things are broken, you just use it no matter whether you're good on it or not. Like you just use it because it's in the game. So I think the issue for me is the balancing around the summoner spells was broken a million years ago. Like one of the reasons why everyone needs Flash as well is because some of the immobile champions, like there are champions like Zoe that have mobility in the kit. Imagine like that plus a Flash versus someone like Garen with no Flash. Like you wouldn't even be able to play the game, mate. You'd never get to them. You'd be a million miles over here. They'd be going wherever they want, fucking teleporting in and out. I feel like so. Sadly, that like they'd have had to a long time ago in League really thought about what they were doing with summoning spells if they ever wanted it to be what this FI is almost implying, which is in theory the game isn't supposed to be everyone picks Flash. It's supposed to be you pick the two summoner spells that either fit your champion or your role or what you want to do in the game. Like think about some of the shit we used to have back in the day where we had like the fucking one that was the equivalent of like the fucking scan in StarCraft. What was that one? Clairvoyance or whatever. Like we used to have shit like that. Like, by the way, actually Moscow 5 even used that as a spell if people don't know to check if you were doing like Baron or whatever the fuck, or where the jungle was so Diamond Procs could invade. We don't really have that. That shit doesn't, first of all, they took that out of the game. And secondly, it just doesn't exist as a concept. Everyone takes Flash. And then normally you're just taking like, the joke is modern players won't even know. You used to also just take Ignite as your top laner because it's the ultimate solo kill weapon, in it. Like you use that at the right time, you get a free kill. That was almost like its own summoner economy of the top laners use the Ignites. Now we can go and gank him next. Like a lot of the things that we even actually had once upon a time 12 years ago don't exist in League now. It has become a bit more just sort of obvious as to what everyone has to do with it.
Yep. No, I now I thought of some examples, like even in Dota, like the existence of like certain systems are just in place and then everything gets adjusted around the system. It's like BKB being like a must-buy.
Yeah, top is fucking team fight. Yeah.
For those who don't know,
essentially
immunity.
It's basically like a Zonya's, like sort of like that. Sort of. You can just
it's like CC immunity in a game that has a lot of CC. Like the amount of CC you can find in Dota on certain heroes.
Oh, it's way more impressive. Yeah, of course.
And I think also like in World of Warcraft PvP, it's like everything was balanced around the existence of a PvP trinket, which basically broke any CC. Like when you used it, 2-minute cooldown, it would break any CC because a lot of the PvP situations would be around like I would blind somebody and then he just couldn't move for 8 seconds. And if he didn't have trinket, he would be screwed, and it would be like pretty much just balanced around that. So there's certain systems that are just in place to solve a different problem, and then it's just too far gone. It's too far gone. It's kind of like when people say that why is the League client not remade or whatever, it's like, oh, it's too far gone. It's like the issues that are in the League client that are like, let's say it's lagging or it's just eating up your CPU or whatever. It's like those issues are like at the ground floor behind millions and millions lines of code that it just screwed. It's like there's no going back. And the same thing for Flash.
Right. Franny Boy asks, if you could relive a single day in your esports career, what day would it be and why?
Ooh.
Because technically, you notice he didn't say it has to be the best day. He's just telling you to pick a day, so you can go whatever angle you want on this, mate.
Well, there's two that really stand out, because I imagine the question, like, the day needs to be the same. It's not like I get to go back in time and change something.
Right.
So there's two days that stand out, which were two big moments. Like the 2021 year my first year on Fnatic was so extremely difficult. It was such a rough year in terms of everything we dealt with, from COVID or just team issues and just everything. It's like in terms of the hours spent and the outcome in Spring Split, where we get 3-0'd by Schalke 04. Like, it was just a disaster. Like, I thought, in my mind, I thought I'm fighting for my life, which I pretty much was. Like, if we didn't have any success that year, it would have been over. And we did this Hail Mary move that I really believed in, bringing in Whippo, like putting Whippo on jungle and bringing in Adam. Like, at the time, it's like we were so desperate, because I knew if I don't make Worlds, I don't make anything happen, like my career might just be done. And for us to then play against G2 to qualify for the World Championship, that day I will look back as one of my personal best achievements. And because I started crying, because in my mind, like, that moment when we qualified, it was so big to me, because I know how much it meant to Whippo, I know how much it meant to Niski and the whole gang. I just knew how much it meant to them. Upsa finally getting the World Championship too. It's just that the amount of effort and the turmoil we went through to get to that point, and then to beat G2, where everyone in that offseason said, yo, EU is over, G2 got reckless, they fucked, like, the whole league is fucked because of G2 getting all the best players, and then to beat them, to qualify to the World Championship and get them out of it. I think, I would like to relive that day, because that to me was just peak.
Here's the thing. He says esports career, so I assume he wants like an esports story. I don't have an obvious one for that, because, for example, I know what you mean. Like, assuming we're not changing anything, like, I also wouldn't change anything. Like, almost every negative thing that happened to me in my career, I'm actually doing a video on this soon. I feel like I learned a key lesson that allowed me to become more of a person or understand pitfalls. But the obvious one I would pick in esports is just the day that I burned Shaq, because people don't know the rest of the story, which is that was actually at a trade show. It was at a trade show called CES that takes place in Las Vegas. It wasn't in like Atlanta where the studio is. What happened is it was basically the equivalent of like Gamescom or CeBIT or fucking E3 or something like that, but it was in Vegas every year. And when we were there, it wasn't just that we got to do the Shaq burn. Like, we had a whole day of stuff. We only had one match we had to do in Counter-Strike. So what we did is we went there in the morning. You had a chance to, look around the trade show or whatever the fuck. Then we got to go before the show. A lot of people don't know this. Before the show, we went and actually met those people. We didn't meet Shaq because he just wasn't there at the time. But, like, we met, like, Charles Barkley and Kenny Jet Smith and Ernie Johnson. I have, like, pictures with, like, Charles Barkley and stuff. We met them. By the way, they were actually almost like what you'd wish a celebrity would be like. They were just, like, really friendly and really, like, interested in asking questions. And Charles Barkley was really, so y'all playing video games, or some like ridiculous question like that, like, because remember, you have to realize Charles Barkley probably hasn't played a video game since like fucking Nintendo Duck Hunt or something in like the 80s or some shit. So he knew nothing about video games, mate. So first of all, we've got to meet these people. And if people don't know, I wasn't just a fan of the NBA, Yamato. In the early 2000s, when they first had the NBA website, I used to watch clips of Inside the NBA on that website, because that's the only way I could watch that show. So I was literally a fan of that show. And people might know, one of my actual favourite players when he was a player was Charles Barkley. So it was actually baller to meet him. Then I do this whole event, we do our event. We come back out, we guests as a segment on their show, we're just guests. And then I do a fucking sick burn and wreck Shaq, and everyone's laughing. And people won't know this. That moment went viral. Like, everyone on the internet was going fucking crazy on that shit. Like, I had so many people, by the way, in esports, like DMing me, like, holy fuck, that was legendary. Like, it was actually a fucking baller. So I guess if you have to relive it and do it all again, that would be a good one. But I want to cheat though. I've got actually a better answer. It's not from my career, as in this has nothing to do with esports. But there was a day I remember, which is why, if other things in my life hadn't happened in years later, I would potentially still to this day live in Korea, mate. Like, I could have just lived there for like 30 years, because I actually had a really good setup. Remember, I didn't have a job there. I chose to be there, so it was up to me when I went and came away. Because you don't need a visa, I genuinely would just go for like 3 months, roughly up to the 90 days. Then I would just go back to Europe for a CS event, or go to America for a CS event, then come back, or go back home just for a month or two and, see my family. Anytime I felt like it, I could just come and go as I pleased. Didn't have to have a visa. You just arrive at the the airport. They let you through. It's all checked out. They're not even asking you questions like bloody America. You just go straight in. It's awesome. So I remember there was one year, it was in 2015 when I'd done all this, like gone freelance and stuff, and I'd saved up again, and I was going back to Korea to live there again. And I just remember I got everything this one day was perfect. Like I got the early morning flight in Europe from Schiphol, like, you know, the 9-10 hour one that back before fucking Russian airspace was wrecked. You could actually just get there in 10 hours. I think I even perfectly timed it where, you know, I watched just the right amount of movies with the right amount of albums that I was listening to. I arrived, I felt fresh, everything was going great, the food had been good on the flight. I arrived, the girl who at the time I was dating, this Korean girl, meets me at the airport. We come back to I have a nice shower, do the shower and shave, you know. At the time I was keeping in good shape, so I was looking fucking good, I was decked out in my clothes. I went out, had some Korean barbecue that night at my favourite place, some straight fire galbi, exactly the one I want to eat, you know. I have sex, fuck this straight fire girl. And I remember just being on the PC, just about to just go to bed. And I think he even did a tweet like that, like, mate, I'd sound like the fucking best day ever. Like I just did it all. I checked every box and then it's just off to sleep after that. So if I would relive that day. That was a fucking straight fire day, mate. That was excellent. 10 years ago now, of course, 10 years. Now I'm just a bit jaded old person ranting about that time. 10 years later. No, it's all good.
Ice Cube. Today was a good day.
Exactly.
Yeah, the breakfast with no gruel, bro. Like, you were chilling, bro. You didn't even have to use your AK, Thorin.
Oh, exactly. And everyone knows I will use my AK when necessary. Absolutely. Yeah. Right, okay, here's a question for you. Kenji says, right, it's a famous question, but we'll do it. If there was a League of Legends World Cup, as in you have to have all the same nationality, he preempts it. Obviously, we assume Korea and China would win. But then he wants to know which country would come third and fourth, in your opinion? And then he wants us to give them squads. We're not doing that. We're not doing where we give 10, but what countries do you think would come third and fourth? Who do you guess?
Well, I guess it's like we also, like, to the list, you can also add like Vietnam, right? It's like you have Gigabyte, like just Gum straight up, right? And then you have, of course, the Taiwanese players, you know, all of them.
Pretty good.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are some stacked teams. I'm assuming he's gunning for something like, let's say, like a European nation, because I think maybe you can put something together in Canada. You know, you can put together some players. I don't want to like give people the wrong nationality because I don't keep track, but I believe like Masu, Busio, maybe. But I think one country that randomly just has like a good a good base to start from is Slovenia, because you have Mickey, Crowny, Nemesis as your starting core. That's already like a very, very good place to start from. The other easy one would be like France, because you just have a bunch of players out of there. But other than that, I think a lot of players are scattered. Which one stands out to you, Thorin?
Well, the real problem is, another obvious one you'd think is Spain, but you'd really struggle with the mid laner for that one. That's the issue, isn't it? You can have some great players otherwise, but mid lane's going to be hard. By the way, I do think the slept on one is Taiwan. If gun to my head, I would just say it would be Taiwan with 30 Yamato. Like, they can really just put together 5 players that could easily do that. Like, they'd have a very good roster. If anything, it'd be better than potentially some of the teams they have now, because you'd ignore all, you know, battles between each other and who's in this team and who's in that team. You could make a banger Taiwanese one. Let me think. What would I pick for this one? Because here's the thing. The old school classic was obviously Denmark, wasn't it? But there's not that many now, mates. There really isn't that many. Like, Denmark's kind of fallen away a bit. It's kind of mild, isn't it?
No, the homies are gone, man. There's no, where's Kobe at? You know, it's like Wunder. We can Caps, Wunder. Who else are we getting in? You know, the junglers are all retired too. You know, it's tough, man. It's tough.
No, I think I would just plump for those. I think we'll go Taiwan. There you go. Taiwan would be third. Fourth. And maybe it could be France. France could have a pretty good roster. I also agree. I also think they could get a pretty good roster together. Assuming we can take everyone, obviously. We can, like, by the way, let's just start with like Shio, fucking Calais. We're already cooking, mate. We're already starting on a pretty nice squad there.
Al Sama can support, no problem. Argama's from Belgium, but they can claim him. Like, it's all good. Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, we just need a European war before we do this.
Gee.
Oh, by the way, speaking of which,
for nowadays, bro.
Listen, if you want to get really spicy, make this tournament, but in like the early 90s. Then we got like Yugoslavia, we got Czechoslovakia, got Soviet. Then you'd be cooking. What are you talking about? I think Soviet Union would come third. They go whatever.
Oh no.
Anyway, here's a question for me, actually, so I'll answer it. Okay. Fede says, in the foreplay episode for The Conversation, Thorin mentioned he's not a fan of Severance, the TV show. Why is that? By the way, before I answer, are you a fan of Severance? Have you watched it?
I watched one episode, but I didn't get it. It didn't stick for me.
Then sounds like you're on a similar boat to me. Basically, the problem I have with Severance is this. I refuse to get caught again. As in, years and years ago, like many people may be listening to this call, I watched a show called Lost. Because everyone did. It was the big hyped show. And by the way, it had crazy graphics. Like the first episode with that plane crash was unbelievable. You were like, holy fuck, this is TV. But I'll tell you what, the reason I say I won't get caught again is anyone who watched Lost knows it probably had the most abusive plot writing style ever, where what they would do is they would set up all these crazy possibilities, and they do that thing they do in American TV shows where they go, don't worry, I'm just going to put that on the shelf, but I'll definitely come back to it. And they'd never come back to it. Or when they came back, you could tell they just pulled out their ass and just changed what was going to happen. And you can tell that when they set that up in like season 2 and they answer it in season 6, there's no way that's what you were thinking. You were just flying by the seat of your pants. And unfortunately, what happens is you want to watch because the potential, like the mystery sounds really enticing. But the problem is they keep not delivering. You keep waiting. And every time they come to answer the question, you're like, oh, that's it. That's all it is. Like, I thought it was going to be something really cool. So you actually feel like you're being ripped off. You feel like, oh, why was I watching this fucking shit? I think that's the problem I have with the show Severance. Like, first of all, it tries to be, in season 1, really enigmatic and mysterious. And there are lots of things that they're hinting at, but they won't give you any firm answers on. I can tell you, the second they started trying to answer those things, mate, it got really bad. Like, it just became like the answers weren't very good, or even worse, you can literally tell, like if you watch like the end of season 1, some of the shit happening in the middle of season 2 doesn't even make sense, bro. There's no way that was your plan. You can tell you just thought maybe it ends after 1 season. We've got the green light, right? Fuck, start over again. And you just changing shit. And I think even, this is a thing I'm going to speculate on here, but one thing I think from Game of Thrones onwards that has ruined TV is I do actually think that TV writers in the modern day who are still writing shows that are ongoing read forums, bro. And that if people make guesses that are too good, I think they go, well, I'm not going to let them just guess what it is to you. And they just change it. And it means they make the show worse because they want to go, that's not actually what was going to happen. But you can, oh shit, they guessed the right thing. Like, and I can tell the fan was a nerd and guessed like the right angle. So I also think when they started trying to answer all the mystery stuff, it was bad, mate. Like their answers were gash. Like it was not interesting at all. Like they actually, by season 2, they have some mad filler episodes too, bro, where like they already would have to address all the big topics. And at the end of season 2, they just have like 2 or 3 episodes, bro, where nothing happens. Like people are just sitting talking in cars because you can just tell the writers like, shit, I've only got those answers for the last episode and I've got 3 episodes to go. It's like basically they did the equivalent of when the kid in high school was like, what's the word limit? 3,000 word limit. I've only got 2,000, right? Instead of like, a large thing, it was a really very large factory that was going all over the hill and back again. You just fucking added word count, you bitch man mother. At this point, the writers were just like increasing the font size to get the page number up or something, So that was bad. Secondly, the initial show looked like it was sort of like a Black Mirror concept. Like imagine a job where you separate yourself and you work there, but you don't know what happened, right? That could be amazing, mate. You could have all sorts of like amazing philosophical things you could encounter. Like you could even go into the thing like, hey, it's sort of like real life. In real life, don't we sort of cut off a part of ourselves and sell it to a company and we have to be a different person with different values? You could do all, they don't do that, mate. They just sort of hint at that. And then it just becomes like every American show, a soap opera. It just becomes like, hey, were you with the gang? Here's your mates at the fucking job. Oh my God, she's a woman. Are you in love with her? Like, oh, it becomes all that garbage that I hate about American TV. I despise it. I want prestige TV to be really high quality, So I thought that was whack. And then lastly, I'll just put this out there. I also just don't think the acting's very good in the show. Like, I don't think there's any, like, truly great actor. Like, John Turturro, in theory, is the best actor in this show. His character's just whatever. It's just an okay one. I thought most of them weren't that good. So I don't... Here's the thing. Season 1 had some moments that were interesting. I thought this show was one of the most overblown shows ever. And if they really do a season 3, I predict it will go absolutely in the toilet. Like, I won't give you a spoiler, but the ending of what they do on season 2 is so fucking stupid. It's unbelievable. So... you don't have to agree with me, but fuck you if you don't in the show's dog shit. See, in some ways I was reasonable, but also unreasonable at the same time there, Yamato. That's how I am.
You had me in the first half.
I know. There you go. Much like they had me on season 1. Right. fucking hell, this is wild. This is a mad question, but we'll ask it anyway. Big Boy says, what do you think about teams going 3-0 in Swiss, he means at Worlds, still having a 2-week break this year? Is it potentially better for a team like GenG to try going 3-1 on purpose? It sounds mad, but I get what he means. If you have a 2-week break can also sort of kill your form, right? What do you think about this aspect that there's still a massive break if you sort of win Swiss early?
Bro, if we look at history, like there's a lot of truth to this. The teams that win our Worlds are the teams that suffer and make it through. I guess I don't know if you can go so far to like intentionally lose, or
that's a bit wild, isn't it? I know.
It's just a big flaw of the format. It seems like I don't know how you really solve it, because it's just the proximity of games. I think that I think you shouldn't mind the schedule to be more punishing to the teams that have to take the longer path. I think the proximity of the series and the matches, I think the schedule can be a little bit more rolling, like they have presented, right, with the quarters and the semis, which I think is a good thing. But I don't know how you fix it. It's like, I don't know if you maybe put like the 2-0 games a little bit later, so there's a space or something. Maybe there's an additional fight for some kind of seeding that makes a difference. I don't know how you should piece it together, because maybe if getting 3-0 is more rewarding, where you get to maybe pick your opponent from a wider pool, maybe that 3-0 team versus 3-0 team, they get to fight against each other to determine like a higher seed. Maybe there's ways to make them more active, make it more active, make it more rewarding.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like you get into the quarters and for all you know, maybe a team just had like terrible matches and still qualified, and maybe they're insane. Like they're being automatically qualified to quarters doesn't mean anything, because the Swiss system can just put a team like KT through the fucking ringer, where they have to play every good team and make it out 3-2, and then you face them because, oh, they are 3-2 and technically the worst, but no, they just played the best teams. So I think just maybe you make it more rewarding, because this guy has a point. Like LNG, GenG, these teams, when they got 3-0, they looked fucking terrible in the first series. JDG as well. This is basically GenG twice, LNG, and JDG. Those are the teams that went 3-0, and they looked awful in the first quarters, in the first BO5 that they played, all four of them.
It's just one of the reasons I don't like Swiss as well. I also think it's just silly. Like, you don't end at the same point. So it just gives like what in theory could be an advantage can also be a disadvantage. It's just a flaw of the format. Right, here's an interesting one. You're going to have to put your thinking cap on for this one, Yamato. The dog says it's kind of cool that an EU player has a real shot at winning LPL for the first time with Shad0w on BLG. On that subject, this is where it gets fun. Who is the worst current LEC or LTA player that you could slot into an LPL or an LCK team that they would still have a chance to win?
Holy.
So we have to pick someone where obviously he doesn't want us to put caps or something like that because it's too obvious, isn't it? But we have to go for worse. So what we're gonna do here, Yamato, I can tell you how to answer this question, is we're gonna think of someone that isn't considered like a top player, but there's something about their game could work, something about it could work even without language, but ability to communicate. So who would be like a not considered a top player? Who could we take that you could actually put in a team? By the way, I'm assuming we're just going LPL on this one. Like LCK seems a bit unreasonable anyway. We'll just go LPL team. So, is there even a role you're thinking of here? Is there a type of player we're thinking of?
Let's work backwards, because it's like we need to pick a potential front runner. So we start with anyone's legend, right? If we think about AL, right, who would be the most replaceable? I think currently it's like we cannot take a fucking ADC, but that's just not gonna work. You're just not gonna have enough firepower. You're not gonna win. Kyle and Tarzan, we're not splitting that. Lane, right? We have to be top lane, right? So if we work from there, what is the worst top laner we can get out of?
Look, obviously, we're not going to be naughty guys and say, we'll put Canna from Carmine Corp onto anyone's legend. The joke there might even be better, but no. What top players could we pick? Merwin? Could Merwin work?
Merwin, maybe. It's tough, It's like the LPL top laners, they will devour you if you give an inch, It's like Bwipo, Kana, like they could pull it off, these guys, but how low can we go? It's tough. It's like, can Impact pull off the Flandric playstyle?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. It's not a bad one.
I think maybe he could.
He's got the mentality for it.
Yeah, he's got the experience. Yeah. But he might not be in the best form, but he could take the shape of a Flandre and just be, a shield that takes a beating from every LPL hammer. We're not going to sniper. We're not getting fudge. Like, how deep can we go?
All right, I'm going to be rude and funny, aka just Thorin, so I don't know why I said that, kind of redundant in a way. So I would take Targamas from Karmine Corp and I would just put him in Meko's spot on IG, because the fact that he just wouldn't be very good at support but wouldn't talk would be a plus. It's the way that's actually a diss to everyone involved. It's the Targamas, Meko, Karmine Corp, IG, and the LPL and the LEC. I've dissed everyone now, right? That would be my best one yet. Fair enough.
All right, bro. If Rookie winning takes putting him together with Targamas, I'm all for it.
If Poby playing and Faker coming back looking awesome meant Faker's the GOAT, if Rookie wins LPL with Targamas unable to speak barely English, but like no Chinese for start, he is the GOAT. At that point in time, he's just GOAted beyond belief. Yeah,
Automatic. All right. So we land on Impact, Midwin, somewhere there.
Yeah. All right, we'll do one last... I'll tell you what, well, I know what we'll do. We'll do this isn't even a question, so I can just say this and we'll end. Gojo has an idea for an off-season content idea. By the way, I think it's a very good idea, and I think it would be really cool. I'll read it out first, though. He says, off-season content idea, that you do a first-team All-Pro and MVP for each year of League of Legends history. Because as he points out, then it would be really interesting to see which years people like Faker, Rookie, Chovy get the first-team mid-lane one. Because, by the way, as he says that, I'm already realising the reason why this would be a great first of all, it'd be very interesting, as long as you have knowledgeable people. But also, I think it would make the point of what I've always said. You know, when I say that point, that I think Rookie is a better player, not a greater player than Faker, it's because what they're missing is if you did this format here, they don't know this, Yamato. They think Faker would win like 7 times. Bro, Faker would have something like 2 or 3 ever. As in first team mid lane. I don't know how many times he'd be the MVP. Rookie for first team mid lane could easily get 3 or 4. By the way, so could Chovy. Like, this would be quite an interesting exercise, I think, to sort of show like who was the best each year. I think he got good at, because at the moment everyone takes best just mean you won worlds, don't they? So no, by the way, I don't know if we'll do it yet. We'll have to see when the offseason. But I like the idea. I think it's a good idea. Would be fun, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like, my mind is expanding. It's like I also instantly went to Faker era, Rookie era, Chovy era. Like, that's
good for every role, mate. Like, for example, top lane would be super fucking spicy. What years would it be Smeb, or what year would it be the Shy? Or I think it's actually a very good idea for a fucking concept. Yeah, I like it. Right, that will be it. Obviously, if you want to ask a question in the future, subscribe to Last Nation Discord. Thank you to everyone who watched the show, and especially anyone who saved money and bought the excellent products that are sponsoring us, and mention that you heard about them on Last Nation. We will see you on the next episode of Summoning Insight.